Thomas is my second assistant. Before that, Assistant Jerry Toure was my second assistant secretary general. And now an ancestor to Sister Tyree Amali was served as my second assistant secretary general. As I wrote in my retirement letter to the Honorable Michael R. Duncan, I said to him, I've had the honor of serving under several president generals, and I named them. The brother in Walamuji, and Brother Senghor, Brother Battle, and now you, the Michael Duncan. So I gave up my position as Secretary General under his administration and was very happy to serve Brother Keely Nkrumah, who I have known for over 30 years, and all the people on the parent body of the UNIA. I've known a long time. And as all of you who are on the parent body will soon get my Secretary General's report, I say very simply, we know what to do. We're not guessing. This is not the first time we've done this. As elders now, we're gonna have to have mentors under us so that we can pass on the work.
Mary, save your other comments for when you do your presentation, please.
Okay, all right, thank you.
For sake of time, we got to get moving.
Okay.
You want to make a closing statement? Go ahead, make your closing statement. You can make a closing statement.
As I said, we're standing on the shoulders of Alma Golden and Jean Slappy and Sister Christine and Samuel Haynes. All these people served Secretary General. So I want to add my bit and do my best to serve and keep the records of the UNIA ACL RC 2020.
Thank you, Mama Mary. And Mama Mary, you're going to get another 10 minutes. So you can run a lot of stuff at us, but I want to keep it moving. Without any further ado, this is a brother that I know hails from Banneker City, Washington, D.C., and now he's based in Texas. But what I like about my brother, and I must say this before I bring Kofi Charko on, is he's a hard hitter. Brother Conrad Worrell, which we're going to talk a little more about later on, who went before us, unfortunately, earlier this year, served with us and served as a chairman of the National Black United Front as an emeritus. But we know Conrad wore many hats. So does my brother Kofi. Most of us in the movement, we didn't just come into the movement when we got involved with leadership in organizations or when we got in members. Brother Kofi was in the movement in Southeast DC. So without any further ado, Brother Kofi Charko.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Kofi Charko. I have the privilege, the honor, and the responsibility of being the national chairman of the National Black United Front. The National Black United Front in many ways sees the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the UNIA, and the ACL as a spiritual grandfather or parent to our organization. Many of us are both card-carrying members in the UNIA, and I'm so glad that Baba Senghor mentioned our chairman emeritus, Dr. Conrad Worrell, who joined the Holy Egun, the ancestors, on June 3rd this year and served in some capacities with the UNIA. We bring you greetings from our chapters and officers and members throughout the country, and we bring greetings to all of those who are watching virtually throughout the world. You said 2 minutes on Garvey. Well, right?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, Kofi, but go for it.
2 minutes on the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I would just say that there's so much, like my brother Keely. Today I listened to his voice. I listened to his voice in order to feel his spirit. And of course, we've been studying for many, many years. I would say primary thing is the vision that he gave to African people, both in the United States and throughout the entire world.
Yes.
Having that vision for a United States of Africa, for a unity of African people is something that was timely. It was timely in 1920, in 1914, and it's timely in 2020 as well. And there are many, many other things that I'm sure we'll get into in terms of the goals and objectives, the practical applications of building institutions, the symbols that he has left us, that he and that the organization has left us, that many of us who have come behind still carry on throughout the world. All of those things are important, but I would say the primary thought that comes to my mind is that tremendous vision that the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey gave us.
Ashe,
Kofi. And you know, when we were laying this thing out with time, and I said 2 minutes, I laughed too. So I understand, how can you do 2 minutes on somebody like that? But the reality is this is just a warm up. So without any further ado, Baba Akima, who is a longtime Garveyite, and I have to mention an ancestor who I ended up meeting my brother Akima through. That's none other than our Council General, in the Whirlwind with Garvey, and that's Farouk Muhammad. Yes, Baba Akima goes back probably further than I did with Brother Farouk. But anyway, Baba Hakima of Us Lifting Us.
Greetings, family.
Greetings, family.
And
Hotep.
It's a pleasure to be with all of you and on the panel and the brothers and sisters listening and looking in at us out on the internet. As some of you know, I had the opportunity, I would say, as a political prisoner to be in prison at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary here in Atlanta. And of course, that's the institution from which Garvey informed us that he would return in the Whirlwind. So when I got out of that, and as a result of some work that I've continued to do, we looked at that announcement and the whole Whirlwind metaphor. And if you look on our website, usliftingus.com, and you click Garvey's return, and you'll see a whirlwind, and you see points that we're using from the Garvey movement and energy and spirit to build an economic platform as well. So that experience in the belly of the beast, in the belly of the belly, in the belly, in the prison where Garvey rested for a moment was a unique experience. And so I would say that Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative is a child and an idea that was birthed in the spirit and in the imagination of Garvey and others who would dare to see us in rulership of ourselves, wherever we were in the world, and joining hands and hearts and material resources so that we would build the kinds of institutions and systems that would allow us to prevail in whatever environment we found ourselves. So I would say to all of you, greetings from the Us Lifting Us family in the US and around the world. And we look forward to a fruitful discussion this evening, but also fruitful work in the future to build the environment that we were meant to build. I think it a crime that we don't do everything that we can do to leave to our...
It's 8 o'clock.
Whose phone is that? I'm not sure.
It wasn't mine.
But in closing, we have all the resources we need to be in the position that we desire, but not only that we desire, it's our rightful place. And we were and are being reminded of that rightful place by the energy on this call and the work that we do. Peace, family.
Peace.
Thank you, Baba Kima. And you know, we got another powerful Queen Mother Africa, Sister Tendai, who I've known for a long time, and she has many other names, and she want to share them all. She can do that with us, but she is a very, very African traditional spiritual blessing for us. She's going to explain to us about Adasi, but right now I want to hear from Tendai, because Tendai always has some wisdom to lay on us. And Lord knows if she brings her mother with her, who I believe is 103, 104.
109.
109.
Go
And
on.
she and her mama don't play either. And look, whenever I'm at any
Yeah.
event and I'm speaking anyway, I'm not going to take long to die, but whenever I'm at an event and speaking and she's there, she put that spirit at you. And believe me, you take it to the next level. I mean, automatically. She don't have to say nothing. All she has to do is sit there and look at you. But anyway, without any further ado, Mama Tendai.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. As I was sitting here this evening, I said we started off, I was going to talk to you about Adasi, the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute. But before doing that, the ancestors was in my ear. I've been listening to Garvey all day today. I've been reading Garvey, not just today, but always, you know what I'm saying, but refreshing myself with him
Ashe,
over the
Ashe.
weekend and all. And what the ancestors said is we didn't acknowledge them. So I went in and got my glass of water, and I have a plant behind me. So I'm going to say, Mojuba, yeah, Mojuba, Omi Tutu, Ile Tutu, Ona Tutu, Tutu Eshu, Tutu Gun, Tutu Batala, Tutu Shango, Tutu Yemanja, Tutu Aya, Tutu Oshun. Mojuba, Olorun, Mojuba, Lofi, Mojuba, Olodumare, Mojuba, Ibaye, Gombobo, Egunibaye, Mojuba, Baba Larisha, Il Larisha, Lufra, Mojuba Bobo Eku and Belasi Oludumare Ibaye Orun, Kinkamashe Asheda, Ashe, Kinkamashe Akoda, Ashe, Kinkamashe, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Ashe. Now come on, Sister Mary, call some of those folk there. Kinkamashe.
Amy Jocks Garvey.
Ashe. Kinkamashe Baba Farouk Muhammad.
Thomas W. Harvey.
Yes.
Ashe.
Thomas W. Harvey.
Ashe.
Golden.
Ashe.
Lazana Mack.
Ashe.
Charles L. James.
Ashe.
Estelle James.
Ashe.
Reginald Maddox.
Ashe.
Redmond Battles.
Ashe.
Thomas W. Harvey.
Ashe.
Asa Hilliard.
Kosi Aron, Kosi Afo, Kosi Fatibu, Kosi Adina, Kosi Egba, Kosi Ayo, Kosi Ashe, Kosi Ajogun, Kosi Wahala Hala, Ariku Babawa, Ariku Mamawa, Ashe. Now I know I hate that folks talk and you don't even know what they're saying. Basically what I said is I acknowledged the energy forces that were with Olodumare, Mother, Father, God in the creation of the universe.
Ashe.
So I acknowledge those forces first, which we call Orisha, who had to present as concepts of good and evil and so on and so forth, so that there would be a basis upon which the universe could be created. Then I called upon the Olodumare, Mother, Father, God, and the many names that we call him in Yoruba, the owner of the universe, the creator of all existence, maker of heaven and earth, the creator of human beings and all that is. And then we called upon our ancestors, that we want their energy and their spirit to be with us. And I basically closed by thanking the Olodumare, Mother, Father, God, and the many names that we call him in Yoruba, getting the owner of the universe, the creator of all existence, maker of heaven and earth, the creator of human beings and all that. Can you all hear me okay? And then we call
you okay? We don't know where that replay is coming from.
Yeah, somebody must have their Facebook on or something.
Zama Cook.
By thanking Olodumare, Mother, Father, God, and the many names.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Zama.
You can mute.
Okay, I basically closed by saying, in the Yoruba tradition, there's no such thing as the devil. There is the opposite of whatever is good is considered, whatever is negative is sort of like a devil. So I close by saying, let us not see any of those negative things like sickness and like death, like disease, like unhappiness, like lack of prosperity, and so on and so forth. And then I said, as we leave today, make sure that we do not see death our mother or death our father, but let us leave in the same way that we came. And then, of course, we said Ashe, so let it be, let it be, let it be. So now that we have done that, and I had said ADASI, our organization, the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration Institute, began basically as an educational institute, but everybody knows us as the Altar Sisters. When we started, basically what we used to do is I would have a little altar on the side, because as Marcus Mosiah Garvey taught us, that we have to reach out to each other regardless of what our backgrounds are, our experiences, and so on and so forth. So I'm the only traditional African, shall we say, follower of traditional African religion within the organization. Everybody else is of something, but we understand that we are Africans first. And so we have come together as Africans to assist in doing the work of uplifting our people on a worldwide basis. So we are ADASI International as well. Brother Senghor and all of these brothers over here who are in the DCA area are our soldiers. And wherever we go and we do our work and set up, they are there to assist us. And we could not do it without them. And in understanding what it is that we have to do, one of the things that I learned from Marcus Mosiah Garvey was his ability to reach out to people of all walks of life, regardless of where they are. I'm a Pan-Africanist, unashamed Pan-Africanist. Always have, and will go to the grave that way. There are certain things that I cannot do that others have to do, like those who are inside the system. I applaud them. I will connect with them if I can assist in the process of doing something for our Pan-African being. So I say with our brother Garvey, let us learn how to reach out to all Africans and embrace them. Some of them just don't know any better, but through his teachings, they will learn better. Ashe.
Ashe.
Oh, Mama Tendai, thank you so much for setting us straight, because our ancestors come before us. And by doing that libation, you definitely set us straight. And, you know, as in 2014, when y'all built that big altar for the UNIA's 100th centennial in New York, and all those altars that you've built for people. And I know later on, you're going to tell us that ADASI is not just a local entity or a national, but it's an international entity. So I know you're going to take care of that for us later on. Thank you, though, so much, Mama Tendai, for setting us straight, because we can't step nowhere without our ancestors. And it's very important for us to acknowledge the Ogungun all the time, especially when we come together, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't even be here.
That's right.
For real.
That's right.
So and we know, like Garvey said, when he said, look for him in the whirlwind, Garvey knew that we were spiritual beings having a physical experience, and that spirituality would last forever if you do the right stuff that you're called to do. Garvey had to know that, because he told us, he said, look for him in the whirlwind, and it'd be the real Marcus Garvey.
That's right.
I mean, you read between those lines. But anyway, without any further ado, I go to my good brother, big Garveyite brother here too, and he was with us in 2014 too. And Baba Anseta, he got a big task, because his task is helping us unite the United African States. And he is the current chair of the Pan-African Fellows Movement of North America that I've been working with for a while. And I really appreciate Anseta, because he knows his Garveyism. He's written about it. He's been a scholar. He knew president generals that I didn't get to meet. He knew Thomas W. Harvey, Baba Akili.
Ashe.
And it's rare that you run into people later in life that know everybody that you ran across earlier in life. He comes out of New York himself. Without any further ado, you know, none other than my brother Mwalimu Anseta.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ashe, my brother, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you? How are you?
Hey, I'm blessed to be in this presence of all this energy.
Yeah, I remember the 2014 centennial at the Schomburg, which was home for me because I grew up in Harlem.
Yes.
Right down the street. And I remember meeting you, and I remember meeting a lot of other people. And Brother Akeem, I have a special relationship with you because of my brother, my Kambizi, who's been with me for the I met in college over 50 years ago, and we did some things on Syracuse University campus, Black Studies, Martin Luther King Library, Student African American Society. So we got our training in terms of what we were going to do. Then he went to Congress of African People, and I went to CORE. But so if he's committed to upsystem us, then I'm in it also because he's my brother. Yeah, but let me just say a couple of things. I want to talk about the significance of Garvey's birthday, but and I'll talk more about the Pan-African Federalist Movement later. But our mission is to bring the United African States into political existence, and we're saying now. But I'll talk more about that later. Just by way of background, I've been a Garveyite, identified Garveyite for at least 50 years. I remember I entered college in 1965 as a proud Negro from Harlem. And then in June of 66, the Black Power March came. So my sophomore year, in an elevated conversation with Kambizi, I became a Black Power advocate in my sophomore year. And then in my junior year, I was a nationalist, Black nationalist. And then in my senior year, I was a Pan-Africanist. That's 1969. Now, one day I was outside of I grew up in Harlem, Alone Bay Braff. I know many people know him, but he was my good friend and brother. One day, Alone Bay Braff and I are standing outside of the bookshop on 125th Street, and I'm talking about Pan-Africanism. And he says, well, if you want to be a Pan-Africanism, you got to read that book. And he's pointing to Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And I still got my copy from 1970 that Alone Bay Braff pointed me to. I went in the store and got it. And then I began to talk to CORE about it more. And then we got it, and CORE became Pan-Africanist and Garveyite more. So I was like the young scholar then. And then, and that's been it for the last 50 years. Let's talk the significance of Garvey and his birth. This is the 133rd anniversary of his birth. Garvey was born, as we know, August 17th, 1887. Now, shortly before that, in 1876, the deal with the presidency in 1876 gave away, ended Reconstruction by taking the troops out of the South. So we were under siege. We were under siege then. A couple of years earlier in Berlin, they divided Africa up.
Yes.
Yeah, so Garvey's
Berlin
coming.
Conference.
Yeah, so the Berlin Conference. So Garvey's coming into birth in 1887, right in the middle of all of this. Martin Delany, who has said, who coined the phrase "Africa for the Africans," to which Garvey added, "Those at home and those abroad." Yeah, but Martin Delany coined the phrase in 1861. He had just passed in 1885. Blyden, who many people, Edward Blyden, who many of us consider to be the real father of Pan-Africanism. He, in 1887, he wrote his classical book, Christianity and Islam, the African Race. So all of this is happening is Garvey is being born, you know, right, at that time. And then when he steps onto the stage of world history 33 years later at the All African People's Conference in Harlem, it's a whole, you know, somebody said that that's the first counter blow against the colonial onslaught that had been coming back. I think Robert Hill, who wrote the Garvey paper, said that this was the first strike back, strong strike back against that. That was a very significant conference. It took place 100 years ago, as everybody here knows. 25,000 delegates from 40 different countries. It meant for the entire month of August, had the Declaration of Negro Rights, adopted the red, black, and green flag, elected the first provisional president of Africa.
Yes.
He was elected. That's an important point to make. He was elected. He ran against a Dr. Lewis from Nigeria, and he won the election. It's a legitimate election. So if you take into consideration that the African people globally were at their nadir, we were under full Jim Crow in the United States. All of Africa was colonized. If you could pull together 25,000 Africans from 40 different countries in one spot for the entire month of August, that's a legitimate convention of African people. And that election of Marcus Garvey as the first provisional president of Africa is a legitimate election. And I consider the right excellent Marcus Garvey to be the first provisional president of Africa. And I think we should not shy away from that fact. That's who he is. The goal of the Pan-African Federalist Movement eventually is actually have a permanent president. But make no mistake about it, Garvey was the first provisional president. Kwame Nkrumah said that of all the readings that he had read, Marx, everything, the book that influenced him the most was The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. Malcolm X, both his parents were Garvey. In fact, they met at a Garvey convention in Canada. And Malcolm said it. You mentioned also I'm the author of the New Pan-Africanism 2020, and I talked about it. But I had a quote from Malcolm that I wanted to read in ending. Every time you see another nation on the African continent become independent, you know that Marcus Garvey is alive. It was Marcus Garvey's philosophy of Pan-Africanism that initiated the entire freedom movement, which brought about the independence of African nations. So Marcus, so he saw himself as a Garveyite. He acknowledged Garvey being alive. Garvey's alive now. The Pan-African Federalist Movement stands on the shoulders of Garvey, and our goal is to bring his vision. I don't like the word dream. Marcus Garvey had a vision of a united African state. And our goal is to bring that vision into reality, physical reality. That's what Garvey wrote the poem, Hail the United States of Africa in 1927. 1957, at Ghana's independence, Kwame Nkrumah said, this is a decade of African independence, independence now, tomorrow, the United States of Africa. It's time for us to actually make this happen. And I expect to be in Africa with Brother Senghor and all of you sometime before this decade is out to see the first president of the United African States take an oath. And I know Garvey will be looking down with a smile when that happens. Thank you very much.
Ashe.
Okay. Thank you very much, Amseta, for that lesson, man, that history lesson. That was powerful. This brother that I'm getting ready to introduce to you is a powerful hard hitter, and Baba Kalichi. I got to mention my good brother in the Whirlwind, who is the inspiration behind the thinking of manifesting appeal, and that's none other than my good brother Lazana Mack, who met in Walimu. In fact, he spoke in Harlem at the Schomburg, and that was my last time seeing my brother, by the way, and I really miss him. But the legacy goes on. As we know, as we finish our time here, it's hard for us to accept. I still have a difficulty when I think about it, Brother Kalichi, but I really appreciate you because not only have you picked up the ball, you was already running with a ball because you was already in the movement, in the Pan-African movement, and you just stepped up. So without any further ado, Baba Kalichi.
Hey, both. Thank you all so much. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this occasion, this very special occasion. 133 years for Farah Kuzaliwa. Happy Earth Day, Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'm thinking about where we are as Pan-Africanists and the fact that, you know, this 100 years of not just the conference, but obviously the red, black, and green, the flag, is really a call to action. You know, it's a celebration, but it's really a call to action. You know, I think about what would Marcus Garvey say if he was here today? If he was here to observe the world that African people live in, what would he say? What is Pan-Africanism now? We look at a future for Africa, and we need to think, what will Africa be like in 25 to 50 years? A lot of people don't think about what's happening, you know, in our, not really passively, but without our intent, positively and negatively. You know, in about 30 years, probably less than that, really, the population of Africa will surpass, you know, surpass 2 billion. In the meantime, you know, you have the population of Europe and Europeans in the West really dwindling. We know that their population is dwindling, and our population continues to explode. What's the plan for that? What does Africa look like when it has that much of a population hold on the world? The potential to do. What is our plan for that? Are we thinking about that future? Because it's one thing to stay fixated on the now, and I get that. You know, it's a bad habit to break. But we need to begin to think about the future. What exactly are we building? Even as we speak of Africa and independent African nations, are these the nations that Garvey was talking about? Are these the great black men and women of big affairs? Are these nations being controlled by us, ruled by us? Are our resources for our benefit? Or are they still being, are this just colonies with black faces? What's our relationship with the continent? Are we going to manifest Garvey's legacy, or are we just going to sit on the laurels of what was done before us? I think we need to be thinking about this time as a call to action. There's a lot of work to do, and we're the ones to do it. What is the role of the diaspora in the future of Africa? See, I believe that Africa is going to be the center of the world no matter what. You know, and African people on the continent are getting that, right? You know, speaking of populations, Nigeria alone, within the next 25 years, the population of Nigeria is going to be greater than the population of the U.S. Sitting there in all those resources, some of the most intellectually developed people in the world on the most resource-rich land. What role will the diaspora play in that? Because a lot of people in the diaspora, a lot of Africans in the diaspora think that Africa is waiting for them to do something. The bus is going to pass you by. You can cry about China, you can cry about India and Pakistan being there, but guess what? If you're not going to be there, someone's going to be there.
Yep.
You can be Johnny come lately all you want to, be like, man, oh man, my ancestors came from there. Why didn't they? But this is the time. This is the time. This is the time when Africa is calling for its children to come back. Yeah, and Marcus Garvey said, and I'm not probably going to mess up this quote a little bit about, you know, we don't need everybody to go to Africa, right? You know, what's it?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You know, there's black folk, right, who are no good here.
And they'll be no good.
That's right.
They'll be no good there, right?
And they're going to be no good there.
Exactly.
That's right. That's the quote.
So we're not talking about everybody moving to the continent, but we all need to be useful. We all need to play a role, and we all have a talent. I believe everybody has a talent that they can use to empower their people for the future. We're not talking about us. I'm not talking about building a future for me or any of us on this call or even our children. We're talking about our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and generations to come. You know, one thing Europeans do is they plan generations ahead. We still, it's like folks talk about a chess, not checkers. We playing Connect Four. We ain't even playing chess. We got to begin to play the game in a way that it benefits generations to come. We need to begin to plan, because right now Africa is calling for us to take our rightful place. If somebody else takes that place, it's like a birthright you give up. There's a biblical quote about that, but I'm not a priest, but y'all probably know about that. Once you give up that birthright, it's gone. You know, so this is a time for the world that Garvey imagined, right? The world where the black man and the black woman are in control of their destiny happens. We're not there. And for us to really get engaged with what's going on the continent is not to join the atrocities that are going on there. This is an atrocity when you have a population that should be the wealthiest in the world dealing with poverty you can't imagine. All because somebody wants to fill their, I mean this literally, fill their mansion with cash from ceiling to bottom, right? Right next to somebody who doesn't have a pot to piss in. And we sitting here acting like, you know, all is good, right? But it's not. We need to be engaged, because we're the ones that can hold African leaders accountable. We're the ones that can inspire Africa population has an average age of like 15. You're talking about a really young population. They're looking for leadership. The leadership is not there. We have Pan-Africanists on the ground looking for leadership, and leadership is not there. How are we connecting with the grassroots movement on the continent? How are we inspiring and educating these young brothers and sisters about how to really make Africa beneficial to all of us? Because no matter who you are, if you are a black person, I don't care if you consider yourself a Pan-Africanist or not, If you are on this earth and Africa is weak, you are weak. You cannot be strong if Africa is not strong, period.
Mhm.
So if you want to be strong and you want to be in control of your destiny, ensure that Africa controls it. I know I probably went past my 2 minutes, but
It's okay. That's okay, man. Listen, the spirit is up in here. The ancestors are up in here. I hear it, Baba Kalichi. And thank you for that Garvey lashing, because we need to hear it. We need to deal with it. I'm going to try to change up a little bit. And I'm gonna keep moving though. I'm gonna go right to my dear sister, Yao Jasia, who is with us, who is very, very close to Baba Farouk and a lot of the ancestors, but she hails from Garvey's, you hail from Garvey's hometown. And but not only that, you've traveled to Ghana so many times here recently, and I'm so glad. And we send condolences to you for the transition of the either the family or the friend that you spoke about earlier. We're glad you came with us. So without any further ado, now you know what we're doing now. We're doing the first 2 minutes, Yao,
Okay.
and then we're gonna come back with the 10 minutes. So how you doing, Sister
Okay.
Yao Jasi, better known as Peppy?
Hi, everyone.
Go chat, my
my name,
sister.
yeah,
Yeah,
my
my
name
dear
is Ya
sister.
Jesse Pepe Park. It's a Ghanaian name. It means wonderful one born on a Thursday. And first of all, I'm so inspired. Thank you so much for inviting me, Brother Senghor. And it was just a pleasure listening to everyone who went before me talking. I always learn so much when I'm in a room full of intelligent people. So this morning when I woke up, one of the things I love about Facebook is the memories. And then I was flooded with all these memories of when we used to always celebrate Garvey's birthday in DC, Senghor, you know, and the memories bring joy to my heart, but also tears to my eyes, because that was when we were out and about and just really made sure that a year didn't pass without us having some big celebration. And also I got another memory this morning of my father who unexpectedly passed last year. And Marcus Garvey was his favorite hero. So I spent most of my life in Jamaica. I just moved to the States in 2003. So Marcus Garvey is one of our heroes, and he was by far the most popular because he had the most worldwide appeal. My favorite hero was Nanny because she was a female, but one of the quotes that my father always told me from I was very young is a Marcus Garvey quote that says, if you have no confidence in self, you're twice defeated in the race of life. And I wore that quote with so much pride that people have called me cocky, they've called me arrogant, they've called me full of myself, they've called me everything, but the ones who know me well knows that it's confidence, right? Because Garvey comes from a country like Jamaica where we have this thing about us that we're very prideful. You know, we accept who we are, and we were brought up with certain principles. And fortunately for us, we didn't grow up in a society where we saw racism. You know, interesting enough, Jamaica's motto is out of many, one people. So you will find all kinds of people, whites, Chinese, Indians, who are actually Jamaican nationals. And we never really experienced racism in Jamaica, but we did experience classism. And we had so many different classes. But moving on, I didn't consider myself a Pan-African until I met Haru Foriata. And we were talking, yes, we were talking, he's like, you're such a Pan-African. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, why did you call me that? I never saw myself like that. He's like, because you're always about unifying and strengthening Black people. That's just your mission in life. And then I started looking at myself differently. And then the late and great Brother Farouk Muhammad, who was like my uncle, always said that to me. And he saw greatness in me, and he saw that I was a Garveyite. And so I spent some more time learning more about Marcus Garvey, far beyond what we were taught in school. And then as I became to travel more, especially to the continent, it was apparent how influential Marcus Garvey is across the world, not just the continent. I remember when I went to Costa Rica, and we went to the Caribbean side and we saw that whole thing, and I was like totally blown away. I think I was texting Senghor, guess where I'm at? And it was just so profound, right? So people, when I travel, and I travel a lot, I always want to find out what people know about Jamaica. So obviously they know Bob Marley. Bob Marley, One Love, and then the other person who they know is Marcus Garvey. And I think it's because he was such a powerful orator. His work spans worldwide. You know, he's documented for so many things. He was framed, as we know. And the things that he says is really testament to us trying to do much better. Like Dr. Kalichi said, we're not there yet. And as my late father would say, Marcus Garvey is turning in his grave because we did not pick up the mantle and do the work that he started. And I sincerely hope that this is the beginning of a new day where we will unify and try to get some of that work done. And I will stop right here. So thanks again.
Thank you. Now that was quite a bit. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Now I want to go to my good brother, who is definitely a solid Garveyite, but more importantly, he's the co-chair of NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And when we in the UNIA, and I know Brother Cam knows this, I know Conrad used to hammer it home, we're not just talking about asking the oppressor for repair. We want to have internal repair, but certainly reparations are due us. And since we built everything they got should come back to us. So it's not about a price tag, it's a principle. So without any further ado, my good brother, Cam Howard.
Thank you, Brother Senghor, and greetings, family.
Greetings, family.
It's such a pleasure to be amongst this particular body of thought leaders and Garveyite. 2 minutes. You know, one of my theoretical fathers is Dr. Amos Wilson. And Dr. Amos Wilson, you know, in addition to Amy Josh Garvey and delivering us the philosophy and opinions, and Tony Martin, and all of the documents that he produced for us to really understand who Garvey was and is, and what his mission was, and you know our relationship to that mission. For me, Dr. Amos Wilson was one who inspired in me the true fire of Garveyism. You know, he wrote a book, one of his pieces, everybody know about Blueprint for Black Power, which is about 1,000 pages. But he wrote a pamphlet of about 125 pages, 2 essays, which is like it's like a what I call a handbook of revolutionary warfare for us in the 21st century. And he entitled this book, African-Centered Consciousness versus New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism. And what he stated is that we live under a global system of white domination. And in order to defeat this global system of white domination, we have to marry a race-first consciousness, which he called African-Centered Consciousness, to the idea of Garveyism or Black nationalism as delivered to us from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And that's profound because that gave us direction going forward into the 21st century as we tried to produce this United States of Africa. It has to be centered on you just can't have, like in Chicago, we have a new mayor sister who openly talks about New World Order. Black woman openly talks about New World Order. And we can't have Black leaders fueled by the system of white domination and see no separation from that and see no Africa free for Africans or Africans free for Africans. We are being challenged more so now than during enslavement for our African mind, for race-first consciousness. One of the documents that I think that we should push for more than anything at this particular moment is African fundamentalism. That document is the foundation of Garveyism, contained in one document. It's a foundation, and each sentence is a lesson. Each sentence is a class. Each sentence is a political education treatise on how to move forward against this global beast of white domination. And so, what does Garvey mean to me? Garvey means my life to me. I consider myself a Garveyite of Pan-Africanism, a conscious citizen of the Republic of New Africa, an African citizen of the world. That Garvey told us who we were. And my philosophy is African nationalism and African fundamentalism. And I'm happy to just be among like-minded people, and I'll wait.
I say, my brother, I say.
Man, I say, Camp. Cam, you brought so many memories to me, man, of some ancestors, and I want to hail them up, and I know you know them well. I know Mary is going to rock when she hears it. All of y'all should. And that's my brother, Baba Hannibal Afrique.
Yes.
Baba Hannibal Afrique was an active member in the UNIA, in the National Black United Front, in NCOBRA, and in the PGRNA. And Baba Hannibal was one of the people that I always asked, got to consult me. Because Hannibal was one of those brothers that could consult you on anything. And he was like Brother Jackson Bay. Hannibal was knowledgeable. He was cool, calm, and collective, but he was always straightforward. And he would always, like Tony Martin, you know, give me the kind of guidance when I had questions about the movement and concerns and frustrations. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass on doing my 2 minutes, and I'm going to add that little bit of time into my last presentation since I'm the last one before the close of Bassani. But I will say this to you all. The Black Star Action Network is a generation of young brothers and sisters that is absolutely well-studied, well-trained, and thought. And the leader of that group expatriated to Sierra Leone, Freetown, and is a representative of the international Gullah movement. I'm going to talk more in detail about Chief Ajamu later because he is the CEO of Bassani, the Black Star Action Network, and also the president of the Gullah Duge division. Most people, when they think Africa, they think about Liberia as being where the UNI went. But if you go back in history, you will find out that the word Freetown of Sierra Leone was, and some of the names was mentioned by Brother Umseta. Brothers and sisters actually dealt with Sierra Leone before Freetown. And because before Liberia, and I'm not taking nothing away from Liberia, but the American Colonization Society messed up the minds of a lot of Black people who went back to Liberia. I ain't gonna say too much more on that, but we are working and building in Sierra Leone, and we're in Liberia too, we're other places, but more so, we're building in Ghana and the West Coast and Freetown, because that's where it all really began. And if you don't know the history of West Africa, we're really talking about the Mali Empire. But anyway, enough said about that. I'm gonna talk more about that later. Baba Mosi, are you ready for your remarks?
Baba, let me just say something right here, right quick. It's Mama Tenda.
Sure.
All right. The area that you're talking about, Liberia was United States' first colony.
Yes.
Okay. So we have to understand what a colony is and what it means. The American Colonization Society ensured that those who went back to establish this colony were American in mind and spirit, and they had to be American also in their Christianity.
Yes.
So they had to believe that in white superiority, they had to believe in all of this construct that we live within right now in order for the American Colonization Society to allow them to return to build that colony.
Right.
So that is what set up the dichotomy and the struggle between the Africans on the continent and those who had returned. Just who don't know any better think that our brothers and sisters sold our ancestors away, but because they didn't know and understand the true history.
Okay, thank you, Mama Tendai. And we're gonna get a little more into that later if we can, because that's important, very important. And certainly during our conference, we're gonna get into that in depth. And I hope y'all get to hear from my brother who can lay the history out like clockwork. And he ain't even 40 yet. Well, he just turned 40. And believe me, he knows all the history of the Gullah, all the history of Mali, and he's building. Mali stands today for him for the Mosiah Academy Learning Institute. But we're gonna get into that later. I'm gonna talk when I talk about Bassani, because I'm proud to be an international coordinator with Bassani, because they're gonna make sure this next 100 years we get it right, Baba Kalichi. These are your peers, Baba Kalichi, I'm talking about with Bassani. So without any further ado though, Baba Mosi.
Yes. Yes, oh yes, I did unmute. Okay.
Okay, by the way, I want to let everybody know, Baba Mosi, I
Yeah.
want to let everybody, we're racing against the clock now, so
All right,
please keep your,
listen.
I'm not cutting you off.
No, I won't be long. I wouldn't take a lot of time.
It's not just for you, Baba Mosi. I'm talking to
yeah.
everybody because we want to make sure Monday night, we get this thing all done and we want to reason. Go ahead, Baba Mosi.
Yes. All right. Well, I want to base my remarks on some of the things that have been said by everyone. I mean, you know, if I had prepared remarks to bring forward here this evening, I would have to throw that away because what I've heard here this evening has put some things into my head that you know, historically, personally, that led me to say that if I'm going to speak to the world about how I feel about Marcus Garvey and his works and what we need to do, I have to do it from my heart and from my experience. And I want to base it also on what is happening here in Washington, D.C., and a little bit about internationally. Here in Washington, D.C., it's a situation where, you know, folks, we're trying to raise the consciousness of folks because for some reason, our minds, because of all the things that are coming at us now through the social media and everything else that is confusing a lot of us, we need to stay focused. And somehow it's not happening. We're diverted into all streams of all things, and we can't seem to place something forward that will take us to that point that Garvey had put in place for us, or set for us, set up a base for us, or a platform for us. And that is self-reliance. I believe that unless we can rely on ourselves to do for self, to build this nation, this African nation, it's going to be international. Whether we say nation, it doesn't mean we're talking about some place here in the United States or on the African soil. African people are everywhere. Here in Washington, D.C., we have a job to do, as Babu Kalechi and others have mentioned. The minds of our people need to be cleansed. We need to be Africanizing our people. And Garveyism is one of those philosophical entities that will help to do that. Our people, as is happening today with the Democratic Convention, etc., our people are so distracted that it's very hard for us as Africans who are African-minded to speak to people without being somewhat frustrated. A lot of times we get frustrated. But we've got the work to do. And we can't allow ourselves to get so frustrated that we can't continue to work. And here in Washington, D.C., what we're doing in the UNIACL Division 330 RC 2020 is continuing the work. And that work has a lot to do with developing the minds of our people here in Washington, D.C. It's with, like, for instance, there's a one group, at least the Baba Kalechi, he leads one. And I always identify with it as being part of the UNIA. I have told him that several times. He's doing the work with Appeal Incorporated. And, you know, to me, it's just an extension of what the UNIA does, or what Garveyism is all about. So most of our members are members of Appeal Incorporated, because we can't see the difference. We may be, it's something that's being led by a different group of people, but we're all doing the same work. And every group in Washington, D.C., like NBUF and others that I may not remember, but because it's quite a bit of them who are doing the work for African people, we need to get together in some way and some form so that we can do the work in a cooperative way. Because everybody doing the same work is not helping, you know. But we need to let everybody else know what we're doing too, and we can't allow personal feelings to get in the way either. Our egos, in other words. So, in Washington, D.C., it is my duty as president of the UNIA Division 330 RC 2020 to reach out to folks to say, let's work together to do what we have to do. This here in this COVID business is an impediment at this time. But going past that, I think we will be able to get somewhere, because I'm listening to people here tonight, and we all have the same view of the world. It's just putting it together so that we all can benefit the world. And I say the world because I heard, speaking in the international sense, I've been hearing of things happening in Latin America to African people. Brazil, we're like here in the United States, there's probably one or more being killed every day by the police in Brazil. African people are dying there from the COVID disease because they're crowded into communities and they're not getting the kind of health care that they need to get. We have to project ourselves to show we care for that. It is happening in Venezuela, where the United States deliberately blocks health, whatever equipment, etc., that's needed to get there to help with the COVID pandemic work. They're blocking it deliberately. To me, that is so low from an administration here. These are people we're dealing with. And of course, a lot of those people who are dying there are also African people. They're living in crowded communities. It's happening in Colombia. Colombia, they're being murdered because they own land, or they may own mines, they may own something that somebody else wants. And since they don't have a defense mechanism, they're not in they don't coalesce with others outside of Colombia. They look like you know, easy target. And I shouldn't say they look like, they are easy target, and they're being murdered. I think 5 of them were killed yesterday or the day before that we heard about. It's happening almost everywhere in Latin America, where the African is not respected. And so, not because of language, but because of who we are as a people, we need to get together with these folks to let them understand that we are with them, we feel for them, and they're part of the African world. It is happening even in the Pacific. And those of us here who have heard of West Papua, we must understand, West Papua people are being murdered almost every day. It's going on, and it's being done by Indonesians who consider themselves Muslims, who should know better. But they're being murdered for their land that they own, the land that they're on, the land that belongs to them as a people. Somebody else wants it. They want their mines, they want their timber, they want their resources. We have to bring all these difficulties in the African world to our people here so that they understand that we have work to do in bringing this forward to whether government or whoever. But I'm saying this to say, let's get together, folks. Let's get together. I say.
Okay.
All right. Baba Mosi, you took every bit of your time. I just want to say you remind me so much of Brother William Henry Jackson Bey, and how you speak, how you talk, and it's all good. PG,
yes.
And Secretary General, can I ask you all to allow our guests to go before us? Is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem.
No, sir.
No,
Baba
sir.
Killy? Okay,
No, sir.
so I want to let them go because I know how us Garveyites are long-winded, and I'm not saying that our guests ain't long-winded, but I really want to get
every one of these guests is Garveyites, so each one of them has been long-winded, and each one of those pearls of wisdom has been worth waiting on.
Yeah, but they have a mission. They're representing an entity, and because there's several of us on, that's why I'm asking you all to just allow them to go. So I'm going to move to my good brother Kofi Ta'aka. Are you ready, Kofi?
Yes, sir.
All
Stay
right.
ready. Sisters and brothers, the points I want to make, and I'm going to run through them quickly. One is in acknowledging Mr. Garvey. We definitely acknowledge both of his wives and their work, Amy Ashwood and Amy Jocks Garvey, and all of the sisters within, including those on this panel, historically and contemporarily, who have been doing the work within the UNIA. I want to talk a little bit about the rituals. This is some things we do in the National Black United Front, and we don't dismiss them. We know what Dr. Welsing has told us about symbols and rituals. So our colors are red, black, and green. We fly the flag of the red, black, and green. We do the pledge to the red, black, and green. And we're careful to give credit where credit is due and where it came from. So that's an educational experience in and of itself. Also, programmatically, we have a number of programs, and a lot of our programs are right in the community, in the streets. The Buy Black initiative that is spearheaded by our Kansas City chapter is inspired a lot by Garveyism and the UNIA. We have the Feed the Hood project in Southeast. Some of you all know about it. But we carry those colors, that spirit, right out to the people. We have the Enjoya YUC African-Centered Education Program, the Sankofa Study Circle. And many of us are in the streets activists. I was listening to Mwalimu talk about his development back in the 60s about different titles, right? And we know that those things are not being a nationalist, being a Pan-Africanist. We don't see those as being mutually exclusive, okay? That all of those things can come together. I am sitting literally a few blocks away from where George Floyd grew up at. We've seen this explosion. We're saying, part of what I'm saying to this group and to those who are listening is that we take that flag and those principles out in the streets where the people are through some of this programming. We have self-help and self-determination type of projects like the Akoli Sankofa Garden that is in the community. We know this is Black August. It is centered around political prisoners and the freedom of political prisoners. And we believe that history is a stream, not a series of disconnected puddles. So those brothers and sisters that are locked down from the Black Panther Party, the Republic of New Africa Move, and other formations, this is part and parcel of this stream in history. Also, institution building in communities. Institution buildings that are inspired by the UNIA, by Garveyism, are very important. I know that you have some in DC. We've got some in Houston. We've got ones all around the country, because this, brothers and sisters, is where the theory meets the people. So if we're helping to meet the people's basic and fundamental needs through a project like a Feed the Hood, or if the youth and others have exploded around the murder and the terroristic act of the killing of our brother George Floyd, and they're in the streets. I'm saying to you that MBUF is one of those entities that is right in the streets with the people, but we take those principles with us, and we are very specific about acknowledging that history. Thousands and millions of people in the streets, then how can being mobilized, but then how can we bring them back and be organized and understand and make Africa relevant to them? George Floyd is from the CUNY Homes, which is a housing project right down the street. How do we make Africa and what we're talking about today relevant to our people on the block who's starving, where there's internal violence, where there's a lot of challenges that exist all throughout this country and all throughout the world. So that's one of the things, beloved brothers and sisters, that we bring to the table and found to be efficient. Our national program, we have something called the Sankofa Caravan to the Ancestors, Mama Tendai, which is an actual spiritual caravan from Houston to Galveston. It is regional, national, and international, and many of our great warriors and soldiers have traveled to be speakers and what have you there. And we bring in the principles that we're talking about to that activity that we do. And then we talk about, you know, our Kwanzaa programs and other programs. But we are very careful in MBUF. Again, I want to say this as I close, because I could go on and on and on and on, to acknowledge where the flag came from in doing the ritual and where the pledge came from. And that's a starting point for many, many people in even getting to understanding Marcus Garvey, the UNIA, the contributions of that great formation.
I say, brother. I say, Kofi, thank you. Thank you for being concise and focused. I want to move right along, and I want to go to my brother Hakima of Us Lifting Us. You ready?
Right with you. Came up kind of early, but here.
Well, I can go to another person. I can come back to you.
Yeah, come back to me.
Come back?
Yeah.
All right, Mama Tendai, you stay fired up, Mama Tendai. Are you ready to talk about Adasi? You got to unmute.
I'm fired up because when I poured libation, I felt Marcus Garvey.
I hear you.
And when the brother talked about Brother Hannibal Freak, then I met Brother Hannibal when I was a co-founder of the New Area Education Institute in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And we were all members of the Council of Independent Black Institutions.
Independent Black Institutions, all right.
In the 70s, where we were trying to use education as a means of being able to uplift our youth and be able to go forward. But because of time, I wanted to, somehow to get here. When we talk about Adasi, we do have Adasi International. And we have Adasi organizations in Nigeria, beginning in Cameroon now, in Senegal. We have one in Brazil as well, in numerous places in the US, in Trinidad. And we are reaching out. We're also a co-founder of an organization which is called ICAMP, which is the International Coalition to commemorate the African ancestors of the Middle Passage, which started in 2015. And basically, you know, we come together. One of the activities that we do annually is to take people to the river. And so ICAMP is with us, where we're trying to create a national and international day in which the world celebrates African ancestry and celebrates the Africans who were part of the Ma'afa, or the Holocaust of Black people coming through the so-called Middle Passage. So in order to try to get this to live, we talk about Marcus Garvey being in the whirlwind, but Marcus Garvey, when a person dies, we truly believe as Africans that the only thing that happens is that the spirit separates from the body, and that the body is basically like a light bulb. So the energy that was inside the light bulb is still there, it's just the light bulb's not turned on. The shell is there. So I want us to know and to feel that Marcus Garvey is not gone. He's not dead. He's here, but we have to call and we have to recognize his spirit when we see it so that we can use it to move our people forward. So in essence of time, I want to read you something that I sent after I saw what was going on with our brother, George Floyd. And I said, dear family, I need to take a moment to speak with you as I'm trying to remain focused upon solutions to our plights of Africans worldwide, and especially African descendants of those who survived the Ma'afa. I feel the pain of hundreds of years as I experienced Brother George Floyd's murder in broad daylight and in front of other Africans. I am traumatized. And in that trauma, I am reminded this act of inhumaneness continues as an act perpetrated on our ancestors as they were being taught to accept their captivity and to succumb to their enslavement, to become the backs and the workhorses that made the economic system the world lives in possible and successful. Our ancestors have been with us all along our journey, individually and collectively, and they remain with us now. Perhaps these reoccurrences of trauma is a reminder of their own personal experiences that we can now feel personally no longer desensitized for the centuries of attacks on our Black bodies since we were forcibly taken from everything we knew, our families, our loves, our homes, our cultures, our friends, our lives. The traumas experienced turned many into non-humans, void of feeling for self and others, while still others accepted mental illness as a coping mechanism, and still others hated their Blackness as it seemed to be the reason why they were treated less than the beasts of the field. We are reliving their trauma that began with their theft from Mother Africa, to being kept in pens like pigs and cattle, or dungeons that doubled as marketplaces and churches. Yet those who survived, no longer whole, but still survived nonetheless, are our ancestors. They survived the Ma'afa, Jim Crow, lynching, and once again to witness the pain of living Black. They provide the foundation of modern medicine, unwilling yet without recourse to become those experimented upon to enable others to learn how to develop solutions to the illnesses of mankind. And now we are here once again, being victimized, traumatized, and murdered like our brother George Floyd. Our outrage, our pain, our anger, our confusion, our need to have resolve are manifested in a need to fight back, to break something, just anything, something to help the pain, the sense of hopelessness. We cannot change the past, we cannot take the hurt away, and perhaps we need not do so if it moves us, helps move us from complacency to action. The past is the history from which we can learn, use as examples to dissect and propose differing strategies for a future that we can make brighter than our past from the Ma'afa. With the resilience, the strength, the will, and capacity to look at our plight today, face the virus killing our bodies, as well as the viral society killing our bodies. And as the world works to create a means of inoculating mankind to enable us to live alongside the COVID-19 and not succumb to it, so we can truly understand that this current Eurocentric world has no place for an independent, strong, resilient, and focused future-minded African. Thus, we begin by understanding that we will be the vaccine against all that is killing us as a people worldwide. Our ancestors are with us. We have never been alone, and we will never be alone. This is a time of reflection, recovery, rebuilding, strengthening, and learning to once again to love ourselves and each other enough to change our perspectives, our commitments, our work, our purposes, our lives, and our dedication to our futures. The diamond is made bright by the darkness that surrounds us. Let us shine. Even in the darkness that surrounds us, our ancestors made us for this challenge, knowing they guide us. If we listen, we can be all that they envisioned. And I say, we are the ones we have been waiting for. I Ashe.
Wow.
Ashe.
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 Wow.
Ashe.
Wow. Oh, Mama Tendai, thank you so much.
I just want to say one
Baba
quick
Kalichi,
other little thing to help folks
go
to
ahead.
really focus and
No,
understand.
go ahead.
When George
Go ahead.
Floyd was on the ground and he cried out and he was crying for his mother, I truly believe spiritually that he opened that portal, because our ancestors are not dead. They live alongside of us on another plane of consciousness. And that portal was open and that mother energy came out. And you know how Black mothers are when you mess with their children.
Yes.
And it leashed that out into our community. Now, what we have got to do as African-centered people is to direct that energy, as Brother Kalichi said, towards the uplift and building of our people, and not continue to stop.
Yay, boo. Thank you, Mama Tendai. Baba Kalichi, are you ready?
Yeah, bro. I'm, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, bro,
and then we're gonna come to you, Brother Akima.
All
and
right,
then we're
bro.
gonna come to you, Yao. And then we're gonna go to Cam, and then we'll come back around to Mary, and then me and Wally Moo, and then I'll be the close, and the President General will be the absolute close. Go ahead, Brother Khalid.
I thank you so much. Thank you so much again for the opportunity to share with the community and to really share with like-minded people. You know, this is a global struggle. We are a global army. Whether we realize we're part of it or not, we are at war. And before I speak a little bit about appeal, I want to sort of say one thing I didn't say earlier, which I think is important. The role of a Pan-Africanist is to be a bridge builder. All we're talking about is relationships between people. And our responsibility is to build bridges between all groups, all segments of African people dispersed throughout the world, with the center being the continent. Our connectors. That's what it means to be a Pan-African. Through whatever means, through whatever organization, through whatever tools you have and skills you have, your responsibility is to build. And Appeal is an organization in that vein. Our mission is to, for those who may not be familiar, is to organize and strategically utilize the vast resources of people of African descent, locally, nationally, and internationally, in order to really create strong, sustainable, prosperous communities. We have several platforms. I'll go through quite a few of them. We know that education is a big piece.
Yes.
You know, if you don't know better, you can't do better. So we really start with that, you know, and we don't assume that anybody knows everything, because we know no one knows everything, and some know more than others, right? But wherever we are, we need to be educated. We need to raise our consciousness. We do financial literacy education because we know that economics is a major tool that's being used against us. We need to understand how it's being used against us and how we can overcome that, how we can maximize the resources that we have, because the whole idea behind Appeal is that everything that we need to create the world that African people deserve to be in, we already have. We have it. We just haven't organized it. We just haven't channeled it in the right direction. So our job is to help organize those resources so that it's directed, targeted towards our liberation and creating communities that Garvey will be proud of. So we start out with financial literacy. This is something we offer for the community, wherever you are in your own level, whether you're somebody who, you know, just trying to figure out how to balance a checkbook, or you're trying to figure out how do you invest on the continent. We have financial literacy workshops that deal with that broad scope. So we want to meet the people where they are. But we know that a fool and his money are soon parted, right? You know, we know that it's not just an economic thing. If you gave, you know, a black people in America, for instance, you know, that big check, if it came in the mail, we know how long it will last in the Black community because we need a reorientation, right? So in addition to the financial literacy, we spend a lot of time on historical, cultural, and political education because we need to reorient the mind of our people. It's not just about you personally. It's about your community. It's about, you know, how do we get here? What is the history that brought African people here? We're in this moment. It feels like the whole history of African people for most people has been a tragic one, you know, because unfortunately many of us begin to hear about African history or Black history from slavery, right? So we're talking about 500 years, maybe 600 years, almost 600 years if you go all the way back to when the first Africans were taken from Ghana. But that's a very short period in our history. You know, we ruled this planet for millennia. And many of us don't have that consciousness. And if you can't understand who your people are, who your ancestors are, because that's who we are, it's oftentimes difficult for you to even envision yourself overcoming the obstacles that you're dealing with today. So it's critical that we make that connection with the history, with our ancestors, to understand how we got here, because it helps us to understand how we overcome this present situation. And that's really all it is. It is a moment in time, but we have to be deliberate and we have to be purposeful about it. In addition to the financial literacy and historical cultural literacy workshops that we have for the community, we are also organizing the first nationally available Black credit union. Now, the idea is the same, right? We know that there's capital, even right here in this wilderness of North America among Black people. We know about the trillions, the dollars that we spend every year. Granted, some of that, much of that money ain't necessarily money in the bank. Some of that's borrowed money, but there's enough capital that if we're able to just pool the capital that we have, everybody's got a bank account. Everybody's got a, you know, maybe your money might be in Chase or Nation or you know or whatever, SunTrust or whatever the bank is, and they use our money just sitting there dormant. That little direct deposit that goes in there, dormant. But it's not really dormant for them because they're using that in order to create, oftentimes to create institutions and forces and policies that are against us with our own money, with our money, or money that we earn. But if we were able to put that money together in an institution, a financial institution that we control so that we benefit from it, then we're not talking about getting money from anybody else. We're talking about the money that we already have, because that's the whole idea. We already have everything we need. We're just not pooling together. We're not utilizing it in a way to maximize it for our benefit. So it's critical that we have a national financial institution that can allow Black people to pool their resources, and that's what the appeal of proposed credit union is about. But we're not, you know, and this is that's a protracted effort, even though we've come a long way and we're a lot closer to achieving it than we were 3 years ago. But you know, in the meantime, and while we're planning for that, while we're organizing for that, and by the way, we do have a Founders Day program, which I'm going to mention at the end. I know I'm probably running a little bit long. We have a Black Saturday Co-op. Now, this is something that we do to support Black manufacturers. You know, we need to get out of this idea that Black people don't make anything. I mean, it's been a notion folks will say all the time, well, Black people don't even make socks, you know, don't even make this. But the reality is that Black people make all those things. We just don't know about it. And oftentimes, because we don't support them, they don't make it very long, right? So we need to make sure that we are supporting Black people that are making the things that we use every day. We're not talking about eccentric stuff. We're not talking about specialty gifts. We're talking about stuff you're gonna buy. You are gonna buy some bathroom tissue. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. You're gonna buy some detergent. You're gonna buy some soap, some toothpaste, right? These are real basic things, and these are things Black people make. So why can't Black people get those things that they're already buying from somebody else? Not only are you gonna buy it from a Black person, but the person making it needs to be a Black person as well. That way, nobody gets to cut off your supply. during this pandemic, when everybody was trying to figure out where they're gonna get their bathroom tissue from, folks were storming the grocery stores. We always had a supply. Appeal members and the folks who came to the co-op always knew they could get it. Why? Because we have our own manufacturers. We don't care what Kimberly-Clark and the rest of them do, and that's revolutionary, right? Because if you can't make those basic things that you need, you can't talk about being a revolutionary. We need to be able to provide our basic needs and support those that do, right? Because not only does that support them, but they reinvest in the community, create economics on various levels, from the person who gets a job to the person who benefits from that product. So the co-op is something that happens on the first and third Saturday of every month. We have products from all over the country, made by Black folk. Name it, a Black person makes it, and we got it. So I mean, and we've seen a real boom in people coming in, and it's really gotten really busy during this period because folks all of a sudden are tuned in. They're like, this is really happening. We've been doing it for like 6 years, I think, right? But over these last few months, it's been really, really busy, and we've been also been able to add Black farmers. So we have organic vegetables grown by Black folk locally that are available at the co-op. So this is us empowering Black people to provide what they need, right? To provide other Black people and get what they need from other Black people. So both the manufacturers and the customers are really beneficial and benefited. And that's the type of bridge that we need to build among our people to bring about true prosperity. So that's one of our platforms. Another one that is more towards policy building is the Lasana K-Mac think tank, which is named after our founder, Brother Lasana Mack. And this is an entity among Appeal that is looking at policies, looking at various models and modes to achieve specific things, to solve specific problems that are plaguing us nationally, locally, and internationally. So these are some of the best minds that we have coming together to formulate solutions, because our platform must be complicated because our condition is complicated.
Yes.
Right? Our condition has so many facets to it. If we're not multifaceted, if we're not diverse, if we're not able to meet all these different things, then there's always a hole. And we're not trying to do everything as an organization, but these are some things that we're doing, and a few other things, to support, Black businesses during Kwanzaa. We have flash mobs. We want to get everybody over there to support. Kwanzaa is a great celebration. We want you to actually, build your community with Kwanzaa. If you're gonna be celebrating those 7 days, you need to spend that money and support Black businesses on those 7 days. Find new ones you haven't supported before, and we actually give incentives and prizes for folks who actually support Black businesses during Kwanzaa. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing, but these are some of the major aspects of Appeal in terms of the platforms towards achieving that mission that I mentioned earlier. And our website is appealinc.org. We have a workshop this weekend. Sister Amma is going to be talking about how to build generational wealth. Right? How do you make the most of what you're already making? How do you make sure that when you have to stop working or choose to stop working, all that you've made while you're working is still working on your benefit, right? So your children and grandchildren can benefit from it. These are the types of tools that we need to ensure true prosperity for our people. So check out appealinc.org to get more information. And we have a Founders Day. This is a celebration we do every year to both celebrate the organization and our founder, Brother Lasana Mack, but also to raise funds for the credit union, because we're at a point where it's all about the capital. We've done the organizing, we got the applications, we got the charter, but we need the capital. So we've got the fundraiser coming up. We're going to have a crowdfunding campaign coming up, and I'm going to reach out to each of you all to help us spread the word and support that crowdfunding campaign, because we're not just whistling Dixie here. We're serious. It's a serious business. It is doable, it's achievable, and once we're able to have that pool where we can go to all of our pet projects and nobody else will support, Now all of a sudden we have a source of capital. Now all of a sudden, brother Senghor got 10,000, ideas, things he's been trying to do for years, trying to get the capital. Now we got a place he can go to actually get that capital. This is a benefit for all of us, regardless of our own specific focus. So that's why we're building this, the financial institution, for the whole community to benefit from. Asante.
Kalichi, thank you so much. And praise the red, the black, and the green. Y'all keep on selling that watermelon over there.
Yeah, bro. See the watermelon.
Said, praise the red, the black, and the green.
Yeah, bro.
I said, praise the red, the black, and the green.
Yeah, bro.
God gave us the red, the black, and the green watermelon. So without any further ado, we're going to keep it going on the economic level. We're going to shift right to us lifting us, my good brother Hakima.
Yes, greetings, family. Greetings again. The organization that I represent, the full name is Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative. And our mission, and these are not the exact words, we've changed it recently, but the spirit is to build and maintain the machinery of economic self-determination. I guess the best way to make people know who we are and what we do is to ask what we call the power question. And it's a simple question. The question is, do you think we should control the economics of our own community? And the reason we call it a power question is because the majority of our people would answer yes to that question. Now, if we ask the second question, how do you think we would do that? Then you don't get the answers that hopefully we would get later on. But ULU, Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, exists for the purpose of answering that question. How would we gain control of the economics of our communities, our nations, control of the economy of our people wherever we are? Most of us remember and talk about very often Black Wall Street and the other more than 100 communities of business excellence that we managed in the past. And when we examine the glue that kept those communities together, the bonding agency, the bonding agents, then certainly our need or our knowledge of the fact that we needed each other was a bonding agent. And we can look at that in various ways. But a bonding agent that we cannot overlook is forced segregation. In other words, those communities of business excellence were commercial activities taking place within a container. And the walls of that and those containers was not only our love and affinity for each other, but it was also the fact that you could get hung if you went across the tracks in the wrong community and tried to engage in commerce. Now, we know that those communities were attacked, in many cases violently, but in addition to that kind of attack, we know that the rulers of this realm exercise other elements and other tools to dismantle those communities. Because in most cases, even when we were attacked violently, we rebuilt. And so, again, the rulers of that realm and this realm used other tools to dismantle and to keep us from reforming those communities. Much of it was took our attention away or manipulated our taste and our interest and invited us across the tracks, in fact, and but still with no power. So for the discussion that we're having today, many of us about 21st century Wall Street and building those communities of business excellence, again, we know that we cannot use the same bonding connecting tissue that we used in the latter part of in the 1800s and the early 1900s to rebuild these communities in today's environment. And so ULU is positioned to bring into creative existence the bonding, the connecting entity that would give us the capacity to rebuild those communities and to sustain them and to connect them one to the other and also to our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world. And so what we have done, and much of this work is still to take place, but what we have in fact succeeded in doing is to build a mutual business structure and platform made up of individuals and organizations and institutions as well. Not only is the membership based here in the US, but in Canada, Europe, East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, the Caribbean, and other places. Again, this is a business structure. Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative is a business model. And every member of Us Lifting Us could be considered a partner in a company or limited liability company with certain rights and responsibilities. And part of the benefit as we grow is being in a position to the organization, the family, the individuals to reap part of the benefits of economic self-determination. So there are basically 4 elements. There are many elements, and our brother Lekechi before me indicated that our struggle is complex and complicated, and we would not serve our mission well to think it's simple. It's not simple, but among the many elements, I just want to point out 4 that are basic to ULU. The first one I just mentioned is the formation of the legal and administrative element itself. Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, again made up of individuals and institutions globally. The second component are the businesses that we form. The Us Lifting Us exists for the purpose of allowing us a structure and a platform to aggregate our resources. Paramount among those is intelligence, knowledge and skills, and obviously our financial resources. We are to then incubate, build co-op businesses as secondary cooperatives owned by the Us Lifting Us platform and all of its members. These are to number into the hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, small, medium, and large, in many industries. The primary model is called the Us Lifting Us Market and Exchange. This is a marketplace on the ground, and but it's not the only business formation that we point to, but it's the one that we will be known most for. And again, we call it our flagship business model. And but again, it's not the only business model. But the third element of our major elements is our members. ULU members organized in collectives in communities and towns and rural areas throughout the world. These smaller collectives allow us to come together to learn with each other, to bond with each other, to set up supporting mechanisms, security, food security, mutual benefits, in many ways. Also to do some creative work around identifying the Black business landscape in those communities. And that information and data is transferred to the fourth element that I'll talk about in a moment. And but these smaller collectives are the nests from which ULU incubates new businesses. Many of our businesses will be startups. Many of them will be acquisitions, because we know that in many cases, there are already businesses in our community, and some of them have a positive cash flow that simply need to be rescued and taken over rather than die for lack of persons in the family being prepared to continue that legacy. The fourth element, and this is a new element in ULU, is called the trade basket. This is a marketplace as well, but it's in cyberspace. It's an online marketplace that involves a search engine and black directories and an iMall for all of the brothers and sisters who offer products, goods, and services from an online platform. But this is more than just an online platform. The marketing efforts will come offline and will go into the community through the UBCs that we just mentioned, the member collectors, and we call them UBCs, ULU-based collectives. But the marketing of the trade basket will also go into conventions, events, concerts, conferences, TV, radio spots, a very aggressive promotional campaign around the concept of the trade basket. Again, that's an online marketplace that in many ways mirrors our marketplace called the ULU Marts that are on the ground. So that's ULU in a nutshell. We invite people to go to our website, usliftinus.com, and view us and take a look at what it is that this platform has to offer. One of the first recognizable instincts of the African in America after emancipation was our instinct to form mutual aid societies, co-ops, communities of business excellence that we talked about earlier. So please consider ULU as a mutual group-owned business platform. Of course, we characterize it as a cooperative, but more than just a sterile cooperative. It embodies our culture, the spirit of Garvey and others. And with this platform, we envision that we will be able to go into any community and, given a little time, to build the businesses of ULU, to connect with already existing businesses. We want to, and we are building the capacity such that we can become the primary dominant economic force in those areas, not only realizing the benefit that's derived from the economic activity, but also realizing the benefit from a spiritual standpoint, especially for our youth, when they recognize that their parents, their uncles and aunts, their grandparents, and their ancestors are no longer taking it on the chin. And they end up walking in a community where they know, and everybody else knows, that the primary commercial force and entity in that community is them, utilizing platforms like Us Lifting Us, like OPIL, and others. Thank you, family.
Thank you, Brother Akima. We're going to move right along. Sister Yao Jasia, are you ready?
Hi guys. I'm sorry. I'm normally sleeping at this time, and I was up really early, so I'm drinking my tea to stay awake. So I'm just really inspired. I really don't have a lot to say. I think Brother Senghor wanted me to speak a little bit about my Give Black Foundation, so I will be extremely brief.
Absolutely.
Is that it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Please.
pretty much, I fell in love with Ghana long before going to Ghana. My first trip to Ghana was in 2011 with Brother Bomani Taimba, who is from Atlanta. And pretty much it changed my life. As a Jamaican getting to Ghana, I saw a group of Ghanaians talking, and they were talking in their native tongue, which is Twi. And I don't understand Twi, but I absolutely understood the conversation because the mannerisms, the body language, everything was just like a Jamaican. So I felt a deep sense of belonging. Interestingly enough, I had gone to Tanzania and Ethiopia before, and whatever Africa was supposed to have felt like, it didn't feel like that to me when I went to those two other African countries. So went to Ghana, fell in love with Ghana. A part of the trip was to do the humanitarian work, which was to visit orphanages and schools. Went to the Trinity Home Academy up in Aburi, up by the mountain area, and totally fell in love with Mama Sophia Alarbi, and saw a little girl who I almost kidnapped because from when I was 10 years old, I wanted to adopt a child, a little girl. And I saw this girl, her name was Gloria, and I just fell in love. And I had been toying with the idea of formalizing the Give Black Foundation as a business. And after I left Ghana, I'm like, that's it, I'm gonna do it. So did all the necessary paperwork, decided to make it more of a community organization and not so much of a nonprofit. And pretty much the goal of the Give Black Foundation is to give back to Blacks around the world. You know, I do other trips to parts of the Caribbean, definitely give back to Jamaica, where I'm from. And one of the things that I really like about what I'm doing with the Give Black Foundation is that I am a facilitator for a program that's called Every Girl Can. And it's really based on the ABCs, which is appearance, behavior, and communication. And it's also based on an equation, which is called 4 E's plus 1 I equals Every Girl Can. The E's are for educate, encourage, elevate, and empower, and the I is for inspire. And the principle is that if you give young ladies those 4 E's, plus you serve as an inspiration for them, they can do anything. And apart from all the projects that we've done in Ghana since 2011, which includes giving backpacks and flip-flops, donating computers, clothing drives, helping people in various communities, the Every Girl Can, to me, has been the one that really warms my heart the most, because I see us truly transforming young ladies into becoming women of substance. And everything that we do is about being a Pan-African, where we try to strengthen the bond that we have in Africa and try to leave a little drop of inspiration everywhere we go. And so we believe in doing targeted outreach. We don't take whatever we feel that people in the States don't want to Ghana. We ask the schools, we ask the orphanages, we ask them what is it that they need, and then we make sure that we fundraise to take exactly what they need to them. And so I just wanted to thank all the donors who have supported over the years. It's been a lot of people there on the website. The website is igiveblack.org. Again, that's igiveblack.org. And one last thing before I go, you know, COVID affected everyone worldwide, including folks in Ghana, even though the infection rates are not as high. And a lot of people lost their jobs. They weren't able to do things the way they would have normally done. And one of the things that I did is have people in Ghana from one of the villages that I work with make double-sided masks, which I had one right now to show you, but Senghor knows about it too. So they make the mask over their authentic African wax material. It's double-sided. They ship it over here to me. I sell the mask. Everybody gets paid in Ghana, and then the proceeds go back into Ghana. So since March, we've been sending money. They've been sending masks, and we have fed a few villages. we've sent a lot of care packets for the 10 young ladies who graduated from the Every Girl Can program recently. And in Jamaica, there's a saying that says, dance a yard before you dance abroad, which means charity begins at home. And so there are a lot of people who are also suffering in Jamaica and having a hard time. So part of the proceeds from the masks were also sent to the village that I'm from in Jamaica, and 10 families were fed. So pretty much, if you would like to donate your time, talents, resources, connections, please connect with me. I'd be happy to also be your tour guide in Ghana and other parts of Africa, but especially in Ghana. Because like I said, every time we go over, it's experiential as well as it's volunteer. So that's all I have. I'm so honored to be on the panel, and thank you so much.
So Yao, how can people get in contact with you?
Okay, so my cell phone number is 301-395-1013. And I can certainly send my email. It's the easiest one to remember is peppypromotions@gmail.com, but we also have info@igiveblack.org, and I can type it in the chat, and I'll certainly send it to Senghor, because I wanted to find out if we can have a different kind of group where we can exchange information, because I heard so many things that I want to get more information on. Yeah.
Well, you're in the loop, Sister Yao, and you definitely will get everything, and we'll make sure people that need to get in contact with you. Let me just say real quick before I go to my brother Sutter, we're trying to get Cam back in, but Yao was in Ghana recently, and she met the first lady president of Division 330, Mama Khadija, in Atlanta, and sent a picture back to me, and that blew me away, because Mama Khadija knew my tender love Kathy when Kathy lived in North Carolina before I knew Kathy. And so it's a small world, it's a big world, but it's small. And Mama Khadija deals with a lot of work in Atlanta. Baba Killy, Mary, y'all met Mama Khadija in 2012 down in Atlanta when we did the convention. But she was the first lady president, Baba Mosiah of Division 330. And Mama Khadijah's a heavy hitter, and Yao meeting her, Sister Yao meeting her was a big pleasure. And then last but not least, we have my brother who she mentioned, Harua Forai Atta, who is from Ghana, who is doing tremendous work, not only in Ghana, but in Rwanda and other places. And he'll be on with us Thursday. Y'all don't want to miss him, because people always talking about what ain't happening in Africa. Wait till you hear from my brother Harua Forai Atta, and you're going to be amazed at the jobs and the work that he's creating on the continent. And like he said, all we need, like Brother Kalichi said, Brother Kalichi was right on point. It's waiting on us. The brain drain is here. We need to go home and build. Even if you're not going to go home and live, you need to go home and create some type of business, because when Africa is up and running, our army is going to be based there. Our leaders will be based there, and we will have Africa to protect us. But until we protect Africa and free Africa from neocolonialism, don't expect anybody else to do anything for Africa. So I had to throw that in there. Baba and Walimu, and thank you so much, Yao, for coming on. I know you had a stressful day, but thank you so much. Baba and Walimu, will you please go ahead on and try to stay to that 10-minute mark, because we got 4 more presentations.
All right. Boy, somebody's scratching in the back.
Yeah, go ahead on with our engineers to get it. Go ahead on. Just go ahead on.
First
everybody
place,
mute up for me. Whoever's doing that, mute up. Go ahead, Sutter.
Okay, good. First, I really appreciate everything I've been hearing, and it's a very good group here, and it's a lot of productive things happening to uplift African people, and all of it is needed to be done. So many different things people said that inspired different things. My wife is from Ghana, and I've been to Ghana many times, and my full name is Malima Kwasi Kwayaja Amsada, and Kwasi is tree, which means born on Sunday, which I was, and Kwayaja is from northern Ghana. It means one who by destiny has just missed his grandfather, and my grandfather died 9 months before I was born. It's also the name of my father-in-law, my mother's wife. So I could connect to that on Ghana. Also the brother, Dr. Kaliji, when he was talking about the fact that we need to have a long view of our history. The fact that the last 500 years, which was subject to enslavement and colonialism, is really an aberration from our history. For most of African history is measured in millenniums. And for most of the time, we have been a world power. We just happen to be living in an era where we're at this nadir. But our goal is to return to our traditional greatness and reemerge as a world power that we've been for most of our time on this planet. So it's important just to understand where we are. And that's the goal of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. The mission of the Pan-African Federalist Movement is to bring that about. Specifically, it is to to bring the United African States into political existence. We were saying within a generation, now we're saying now. We expect it to be done within this decade. And we use the term United African States intentionally as opposed to United States of Africa, which Kwame Nkrumah and Garvey used. It's in the same spirit, but we consider the African states in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Haiti, Trinidad, to be African states also, and to be equally involved in the political formation of the United African States. We consider the 48 million African people in the United States, the 1 million in Canada, which make up North America. We would be like the seventh largest African nation, right behind Ghana and Uganda. We will be a part of that constitutional construct, and we will have rights as African people, as African people on the continent, a right to return, a right to, etc. So that's our primary mission. Now we have, I'm the coordinator for the North American Pan-African Federalist Movement, the North American Regional Coordinating Committee. There's 9 other regional coordinating committees. It's a global movement. We have a regional coordinator for the Caribbean, Brother Felipe. We have a regional coordinator for Latin America. I was listening to some of the things that people were talking about in Latin America, Brother Roy. We have a regional coordinator for West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, Central Africa, Northern Africa, and Europe. And we meet as the coordinator for North America. I meet with the other coordinators plus their deputy coordinators and secretary generals once a month on the International Preparatory Committee. And the International Preparatory Committee is preparing for a global Congress that we're going to have, and which will begin to lay the foundations and even perhaps even later constitution for the United African States, which we will then take to the states by referendum or whatever methodology to approve. But the rubber meets the ground at the local coordinating committee level. So the regional coordinating committee is dealing with the United States and Canada. Underneath that, we have a 50-state strategy. We're trying to build state committees in each of the 50 states, 10 provinces in Canada. We have strong local communities. A local coordinating committee is where the rubber meets the road, because we see this as a mass movement, a bottoms-up movement. And it has to come from the bottom up. Somebody was mentioning statistics before, like 75% of the African population is under the age 35. We are concerned, we see that is a movement. It has to come from the bottom up. The African Union is an organization of African heads of states. The charter says we, the heads of states of Africa. The heads of states of Africa automatically aren't going to have a vested interest in keeping their current status. Underneath a United African States, they would become governors. They're not anxious to become governors. There's a joke, Julius Nyerere, in one of his, what I consider to be his greatest speech, his finest hour, in 1997 on the 40th anniversary of Ghana, he gives he remembers being in Accra, in Ethiopia in 1963 when they were forming the Organization of African Unity. And Kwame Nkrumah was coming there to actually create the Union of African States. He was actually, if you read his speech, that's what he's talking about. But the compromise between the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group ends up being an organization. So Neri is making a joke. He says, I remember being on the plane and hearing some people talking about, well, at least I'm going back to my country and I'm still head of state. Again, but a mass movement from the bottoms up. We're talking about, the current heads of states will become governors, and we will have a president of a United African States as the head of it. And our goal is to organize from the bottom up. From the local coordinating committees are made up of a coalition of a coordinator, a deputy coordinator, community and it's a coalition of organizations also. So we'd have interested individuals, Pan-Africanists, and organizations that make up the coalition of the local coordinating committee. We have a strong one in Atlanta, Washington, New York, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Canada has a national coordinating committee for the whole nation, and underneath that they have a local coordinating committee in Toronto, and they're building ones in some other places also. So, but that's where the rubber meets the road in terms of it being a mass movement from the bottoms up mass movement. So we encourage, and we are having in North America in October, we are having our convention. It's going to be virtual. It wasn't planned to be, but it's going to be based in Atlanta. It's from October 15th to the 19th. And we're working on making it virtual. In fact, we have a steering committee that's working now every week. We have a meeting tomorrow, laying the foundations for the program, the workshops that's going to be into it. And also that convention is going to decide the delegation that's going to be going to the global convention. So we, and I put up the website, and I could also put on my phone number, also the phone number for the movement itself, the dedicated phone line.
Okay, we'll make sure everybody gets everything.
Okay.
Go ahead on.
All right. So anyway, that's in essence what the movement is about. Now we have, here's a couple of other things. There's a petition that we ask people to sign, and we're trying to get, first we were saying 25,000 signatures. Now we're talking about each region. And again, you know, I mentioned the geographical distribution of the regions, getting up to 1 million signatures. Basically, if you sign the petition, you're basically saying you support the idea of a United African States. Doesn't mean we're calling you to do anything, but just we want people to support the idea. That's part of how we build a mass movement. And when we have our global convention, if we go to the convention, each region having all of these signatures, that gives us some legitimacy in terms of beginning to write the Constitution. It's going to have to be ratified by the states. You know, if you got to, so that's the and you could on the website, which is I put up, you could actually sign the petition. It doesn't cost anything. A step further would be to sign the call, and the call that asks some questions like, do you believe that the time for Africa to unite is here? Do you agree with Kwame Nkrumah when he says it's clear that African solution must be found to African problems? Divided we are weak, united we could be one of the strongest forces for good in the world. Do you believe that Malcolm X, the African problems are our problems, our problems are African problems? There's a series of basic questions. Do you agree with Diop that the movement will be, that it's going to take an undercurrent of youth that's going to change the body politic? We ask you to sign the call. If you sign the call, that means you become an active member of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. Now we're expecting more from you than just a petition. We're expecting you to get involved with a local coordinating committee. You could also, on the website, if you want to take a step further and make a financial commitment monthly, you can we just have a new element where you can get a membership card. So we are encouraging people to get involved. The key thing in our mission, our sole mission, is to bring the United African States into political existence now. And we believe that all of the various problems that we have as a people we'll be in a better position to deal with them from a position of strength once this global, as Garvey called it, called for a global political entity in which the sun will never set. We're calling it the United African States. And by the way, that's an African fundamentalism, that basic piece that somebody was referencing earlier.
Okay, we got to wrap up.
Yeah. So anyway, so we encourage you to sign up under the petition, to get involved in the movement. And we believe that once this mission is achieved, everything that everyone is doing in the Black community will be in a better and a stronger position to achieve it.
Thank you, Baba. I'm trying to push along so we can get it all in and we can have a little time at the back end. But I just want to remind everybody, we're going to make sure everybody is linked, because that's what this is all about. Garvey's 133rd brought us closer together. Some of us were already together. This is bringing us closer together. And like most everybody has said, we got work to do and we can get it done. And there's many others out there that are not here. So without any further ado, I'm gonna go to Brother Cam. Howard, Cam, are you still with us? Can you unmute?
I am with, I'm driving, unfortunately. I had another engagement, but I am here.
Okay, can you share? Is it all right? You be safe, Can you share something with us?
Sure, I can. So, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, in COBRA, we've been around for 33 plus years, and it's interesting that one of the greatest icons of the reparations movement was also one of the greatest icons of Garveyism, and that's our beloved Queen Mother Moore.
Yeah.
I remember Queen Mother Moore.
Okay.
And as you know, of Garvey, and she was the one of the leading proponents, leading voices of reparations and a mentor to most of the old heads in the COBRA, and so we benefit. The COBRA benefits from Garveyism through the unity of Queen Mother Moore and reparations and being a leading figure of the reparations movement. So in COBRA, we were formed with the sole purpose of winning reparations for people of African descent, for Black people in this country, African Americans in this country. And our mission was to unite a base from which to make a demand of the government and of other entities that have led in had complicity in the harm, the crimes committed against our people during the period of the colonial period of America, transatlantic slave trade, the colonial periods in the islands, as well as the periods of American chattel slavery, Jim Crow, and post-Jim Crow or neo-apartheid crimes that are still being committed today. In 2001, at the World Conference Against Racism, held in Durban, South Africa, which was a Pan-African victory of immense proportions, the international community declared enslavement, transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, apartheid, and the crimes against humanity, that there was an economic basis to racism and that reparations are due. Prior to that time, we have always known that those were bad acts, and America tried to couch it in moral terms that slavery was immoral. But at the end of the 2001 convention, globally, people of African descent have been saying collectively that those were criminal acts. It was criminal acts by a small syndicate of European states organized in a massive organizational criminal enterprise of transferring millions of people off the continent of Africa and bringing them to America and chattelizing them, meaning turning them from humans to property under their law eyes and treating them in any way they felt. Since Durban, we have said we moved into a new era of reparations activism, away from advocating to enforcing. One of the greatest documents that was given to us by the UNIA was the Declaration of Human Rights for the Negro rights. And in that declaration, although it was not stated, what was actually stated in the entirety of the declaration was the right was to be repaired as a people. And that repair, as Baba Singor stated, was an internal repair that we were doing for ourselves, us lifting us, as our Baba has talked about. But we also have a right to enforce our right to be repaired by making the demand from the criminal entities, government, state, federal, and local, corporations, national and multinational, institutions, schools, universities, hospitals, churches, as well as prominent families who are still enjoying the legacy of the criminality of their ancestors. So we still have that right to enforce our repair by extracting resources, make the demand for resources from which we can begin to do the type of organizing that we need. We have the resources, but we do not have a major organ or organs that are able to assemble those resources in the way that we need to. And I think we need resources in order to assemble our resources, in order to do the return of repair. Everyone who I know that's in the reparations movement also works in some way of internal repair. I mean, we're in different organizations in addition to in COBRA. So we do not see them as mutually exclusive, but we do know that there's a debt owed to us and that we are 100% going after that debt. Currently, right now, there are two major initiatives that we're doing and COBRA is doing. One is, of course, pushing HR 40. HR 40 was revised in 2017 before Congressman Conyers left the National African American Reparations Commission. I asked Congressman Conyers to submit a new bill. And COBRA had abandoned the old bill because we felt that it was obsolete. What it had designed to study was whether or not there was a continued legacy of enslavement among current living Africans. We had all type of documentation, studies, etc., including the World Conference Against Racism, that stated that what you see among African people and people of African descent on the entire planet, the economic condition that you see us in is a direct result. And the social conditions that you see are a direct result, and the political conditions that you see, the disarray, is a direct result. The political leaders that you see in Africa that has, engaged in all type of crimes against their people is a direct result of colonialism and enslavement of our ancestors. So we didn't need to study that. And also we saw that Congressman Conyers was not even pushing his own bill while Barack Obama was in presidency, because they were pushing the healthcare bill and didn't want to push anything that would compete against that. So in COBRA abandoned HR 40. And we shared that with NARC at NARC's inaugural meeting, and we determined that we would seek to revise it, turning it from a study bill to a remedy bill. And I sat on NARC commission in the COBRA seat, extending the seat to COBRA. And I crafted into that bill the 5 components, the international components of full reparations. And under international law, reparations must, quote, wipe out all consequences, unquote, of the harm resulted from the crimes that were committed. And in order to wipe out all consequences, the government must engage in full reparations. And full reparations were defined as having 5 components. We wrote those 5 components in HR 40. Those 5 components are cessation and guarantees of non-repetition. Whatever bad acts the state is committing, they must stop those acts. But right now, we know there's a lot of bad acts around policing in our community. And there are lots of other laws that have a disproportionate negative effect on African people in this country. So the first act of reparations, the criminal holding of our political prisoners still in custody, is an act from which reparations is due. These brothers and sisters should be released. So cessation and guarantees of non-repetition is the first act of reparations under international law. The second act is restitution and repatriation. How do you return people back to where they would have been had you not committed these crimes against them in the first place? And making sure that these people have a right and means to return to their homeland if they choose to. And so the educational initiatives, land, health initiatives, but mostly educational initiatives, economic development initiatives, those fall under restitution. The third component is compensation. What monetary awards are due to a people, redress are due if restitution is not completely repaired to people, then compensation is next. We wrote that in H.R. 40. The fourth component is satisfaction. How do you return dignity back to a people whose dignity was eroded as a result of the crimes you committed against them? The history that you wrote about us, the stealing of our culture and the prohibiting of us to practice our culture, our spirituality, our music, the control of our music, and making it do what you wanted to do and teach the lessons that you want to teach. That's part of satisfaction. Return to us our dignity. Apologies, monuments, and markers, and things like that. The curriculum, a massive curriculum change in this country, is part of satisfaction. And the final component is rehabilitation for the heart, mind, and spirit damage, emotional damage that you cause to people. What we're understanding now with COVID is that Black people are succumbing more to COVID deaths, and one of the reasons they're given is the underlying ailments, the pre-existing ailments, the diseases. Well, we know that from historical trauma that those experiences are said to affect the DNA of a people who've undergone historical trauma. And the effect on the DNA is one of challenging or weakening the immune system, premature aging, and autoimmune diseases where your immune system turns on itself, begin to attack the body from within. If we look at the health condition of Black people, we see all of those things taking place at younger and younger ages in our community. So we definitely know that the crimes committed against our ancestors, ongoing, not just one episode like the Jewish people, a 6-year episode, and we know that 3 generations later, they have a higher propensity of diseases, those whose grandparents experienced the Holocaust compared to their peers whose grandparents did not experience the Holocaust. We see 3 generations down that they have a higher propensity of illnesses. We know that we've had an unrelenting period of historical trauma. There's never been a time in this country we haven't been undergoing historical trauma. And so there's a new study that says that the damage can last up to 7 generations. So we're experiencing the trauma of 7 generations ago today. And then our children will continue to experience the health challenges and the psychological challenges, because also historical trauma, psychological injuries, mental illnesses also generated generationally. And so we wrote all these things in H.R. 40. Right now, there's 144 co-sponsors. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee says that she wants 150. Once she gets 150, she's going to order a markup, a call for a markup. That's when they vote on the bill in the Judiciary Committee, debate on it, vote on it. We have the votes in the Judiciary Committee, and then it would be moved to the full House for a floor vote. It would then need an additional 68 votes on the floor for a simple majority vote. And Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee believes she can get those votes if we can get her 150 going into the House. And then there's a Senate companion bill. We know it's not going to move in this Congress, so it's important that the Democrats control the Senate, because we'd have to do all this again in January because the congressional session ends in December. But if we have a House victory in this congressional session, we can easily move to a vote early in the next congressional session and then work hard for a Senate victory if the Democrats control the Senate. The other thing is we're pushing, I'm going to conclude, I don't want to take up, I want the next person to speak in time and fashion. The other thing we're pushing is local reparations. And I've authored a little pamphlet called Land the Foundation of Local Reparations. As you know, Sister Evanston kicked it off, first Reparations Commission or subcommittee, $10 million over a 10-year period, funded by marijuana, recreational marijuana use, the tax on recreational marijuana. In Chicago, we had passed a bill for a reparations subcommittee in June. Asheville, North Carolina followed up in July, in July. And there's other cities who are pushing for local reparations. And so we've authored, and COBRA's authored, a pamphlet entitled Land the Foundation for Local Reparations, National Symmetry on our move toward for repair. You can get that off Amazon, and pretty soon we'll have it on COBRA's website. We can download a PDF version for a minimum donation. But that's what we're pushing. That's where COBRA's pushing. We think that local reparations efforts will have three objectives. One is to offer triage, point some resources to some of the really challenging things we're facing on local levels. Two, to propel HR 40 the same way direct action in the 60s all around the country propelled the Civil Rights Act, the Voters Registration Act, and the Fair Housing Act, but it was because of efforts, local efforts around the country. So we're confident that local reparation efforts will also fuel the federal push. And finally, the more local reparation structures we have in place, the more entities will be available when federal resources come down. You're already in place to receive federal dollars, and if you have shovel-ready proposals and programs already ready to be funded, soon as those funds are released, we have structures in place to take those and begin to the repair on our people. So we're pushing local reparations for triage, push HR 40, and to have structures in place for federal state resources. California also has passed in their lower house, and it will be the first state, and they're expected to pass it in their Senate this month and go before the governor to be signed this month. So they'll have a reparations task force, not a commission, it's a task force, but the bill mirrors HR 40, and other than forming a commission, it forms a task force. So, you know, there's a lot going on. We have to be busy, not only in internal repair, but extracting these resources for the harm that have been against our ancestors. And I thank you for the time this year.
Oh, thank you so much, Brother Cam, for that thorough presentation. And I encourage everybody to visit the website. Sister Mary, we're going to ask you to go as quickly as possible so I can do the Bassani and we can bring the President General on and we can end close to 10:30 as possible. Sister Mary, please unmute yourself. You got to unmute. You got to unmute. You got to unmute, Mary. If you're not ready, I'll go ahead and go because we got to roll. Can you unmute? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do Bassani and then we'll come back to you, Mary. So brothers and sisters, Bassani is a very powerful movement and I'm gonna try to do it as quick as possible for the sake of time. I really appreciate everybody. And for real, we on time. And if it wasn't a Monday night, we would keep rolling. But the Black Star Action Network International is a legitimate Pan-African movement and legally incorporated as a nonprofit organization established for the purpose to practically unify like-minded individuals and grassroots organizations from around the world into a single network of leaders on call, volunteers, community activists engaged in daily work to serve our people and to build our communities. Now, the reason I share this is because Bassani is called the Black Star Action Network International. And I know for a fact that brothers and sisters are in Sierra Leone is the base. We have brothers and sisters all in West Africa. We even have a very powerful leadership sister in Israel. We have members in Tanzania. We have members all over the United States and in other places, and it's growing. It's a coalition of conscious African brothers and sisters younger than many of us on this panel. It might be one of us that might meet that bill. I'm not going to call them out, that are serious about Garveyism. They are intertwined and married to UNIA Inc., as well as UNIA ACL, RC 2020, as well as any other race first groups that we're connected with. Also, the CEO of Basani is the ambassador of West Africa for the UNIA ACL government. Brother Chief Fadu Ajamu Mansour, who is a chief, but he's also the paramount leader of the Gullah international community. I don't have time to go all into the history. Y'all should know when I say Gullah. We're talking about Sierra Leone, South Carolina, and all over the United States, and really everywhere Black people are at. But those brothers and sisters, along with Basani, are connected. Not only that, there is a repatriation aspect to what is being set up through Basani, through another entity, the Sierra Leone Repatriation Project. So people who want to repatriate and become expatriates, we can help with that. They are also connected to many other organizations that are dealing with expatriate status, expatriates that are in Ghana, Gambia, and other places in Africa. This is a very serious movement, did not just come on the scene. I've been watching them for a while. As I said earlier, Chief Fade Ajamu Mansour worked directly with Malcolm X's grandson. Him and other progressive folks who were former artists, or I shouldn't say former artists, but were into the hip hop movement, it got real serious and stopped just singing about what we needed to do and began organizing what we needed to do. So now that we are married to them, I see them as the next generation of thorough global Garveyites. I'm going to say that again. I see Basani as the next generation of thorough Garveyites. The potential is incredible. So go to Basani website, and I will put that up in the chat room. Know that we will continuously be getting information from Basani. And as the international coordinator, I'm happy to tell you all, I am proud to be working with young brothers and sisters that are my children's age, that have children, and are serious about Pan-Africanism with integrity. Basani is something you're going to hear a lot about. And you could probably see a lot if you go on Facebook all over the place. It's a lot that I could tell you, but for the sake of time, I will tell you, I promise you, I will get any information that you need about Basani, because we vet our members. We don't just have people join. They got to be vetted. They got to be seasoned. We got some great educators. We got some great agriculturalists. We have some great engineers. We have some great communications experts, and it's on the move. I am excited about the Black Star Action Network International. And for you all that know, I always coin the word that don't belong to me. It ain't about me, he or she. It's about we collectivity for true sovereignty in the 21st century. We got to raise our Blacktricity. And the Blacktricity that is coming from Basani is going to keep our feet on the fire. They're going to deal with all the progressive groups that's out here. So y'all be ready. Be ready. So without any further ado, Mary Bota.
Yes.
Mary Bota.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
please. Can you hear me?
Forward. Yes, please go forward.
I've been listening to everyone, and it's been a pleasure and a joy to listen to everyone. But beginning my 45th year in the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, I've come to the conclusion that Mr. Garvey, who had a global mission for us, gave us Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. One God, one aim, and one destiny. 1914 started the government of the UNIA. It took him 6 years to have an international convention. He had 2 million members. So Garvey didn't just go to Harlem and have a convention. He made sure he had what he needed. He had 2 million members, 25,000 delegates. So when they came up with, and they created the government with the Declaration of the Negro Rights of the World, they gave us the flag. In other words, the same thing that the United States of America, when they had the Declaration of Independence, that declaration is our declaration to the world that we were starting our own government. So the greatest thing that Garvey gave us was a government. So that means everything else that we do can be a part of this government. So I'm happy to hear and see about all these organizations that can be a part of the great government. One thing that I learned was that the 10% of the world's population are Aryans. We can brown them down, but they cannot white us out, okay? That's the great fear. The great fear is that Black people are now beginning to take their rightful place. It is our time now. It is time for us to consolidate. It's time for us to get the best of all these organizations and put it together. As Brother Khaliji said, it's time for us to have a vision for Africa and African people. And we got to follow the principles that Mr. Garvey laid out. African identity. If you don't identify as an African, then you've already lost. If you don't believe in self-reliance, which is the second principle, do for self, you're never going to have anything. If you do not have pride about your history, if you don't know your history, then you're willing to give up 244 years in this country, for thousands of years, millenniums of history, when we ran the world.
Absolutely.
And we can do it again, but we just have to not answer to what they call us. They can call you anything, but you don't have to answer. You can call me anything, but it's not what I answer to. It's what I answer to that's most important. We must be collectively organized in such a way that, as I heard one person say tonight, that wherever they go, they see Black people in charge and running it. And not only running it, but protecting it with our own military. If white folks need airplanes, we need airplanes. We need our own industries. We need our own insurance agencies. We need our own scientists. As a matter of fact, we need our own and new communication systems. We're gonna have to go back to the Dogon people and learn the things that they taught us. In other words, we're gonna have to return to what is original and keep always the principle of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad, and one God, one aim, and one destiny. Thank you so much.
So Mary, thank you so much. And brothers and sisters, thank everybody for staying with us. And we're coming to the last presentation. I really want you all to hear this brother's message. Baba Akili was a part of CB, Mama Tendai, the Council of Independent Black Institutions. He was the CEO of the Marcus Garvey School that little Malcolm grandson that I talked about went to. So Baba Akili did not just build in the movement with the UNIA. Baba Akili is an Nkrumah, named after Kwame Nkrumah, who we know incubated in Philadelphia. And it's no coincidence that the Nkrumahs were the young folks that I ran into when I got in the UNIA. Also, I was blessed to serve 8 years as President General, 2 terms in the UNIA, coming up through the ranks. But if it were not for my first assistant, Baba Akili, I don't know whether I would have sanity at this point. Not only that, he is one of the best convention conveners that I've ever met in my life.
Yes.
Because one thing about Baba Akili, he can disagree with you, but he will always listen to whatever you have to share. That's rare. You can't do that with Baba Senghor. Y'all know that. That don't work. It don't work. Everybody has special traits. Baba Akili got real special traits. Now that he's serving as President General, I want y'all to know it ain't about us as PGs or assistant PGs. It's about us as blood brothers, and we are warriors. So without any further ado, Baba Akili Nkrumah, President General of UNIAACL RRC 2020.
Sante Sana, Brother Senghor, and peace and blessings to everyone. I know we did greetings earlier, but after the presentations that you all have made, I want to make sure that I recognize all the things you said. Sister Tendai is still on the phone. I'd like her to look at this stone, because this stone I got from her in 2012 when she did an ancestral shrine in DC. And I got this stone from her in 2014 when she did the ancestral shrine for a celebration of the first 100 years. And I said then I would celebrate another 100 years. I celebrated 2016, and now I'm celebrating another 100 years in 2020. Folks have a tendency to not pay attention to numbers, but I digress. And I want to read something to you. Marcus Garvey, fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the UNIA ACL of the world. You may ask, what organization is that? It is for me to inform you that the Universal Negro...
I'm sorry, hold, Baba. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead,
For me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association that seeks to unite into one side of Bali, the 400 million Negroes of the world, to link up the 50 million Negroes in the United States of America with the 20 million Negroes of the West Indies, the 40 million Negroes of South and Central America with the 280 million Negroes of Africa for the purpose of bettering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. I want to stop there. And I heard my brother reciting the words, and I appreciate that. That was okay. No, that's all good, because it means that not only am I reading it, someone else already understands it. But the reason I wanted to read that is to deal with what I'm about to say. You see, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the government of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League of the World, RC 2020, we're dedicated to building the governmental structure for the next 100 years. And as I listened to every presenter, both sister and brother, each of those presenters presented pieces of what we need in the government in order to move our people forward. Example, we at RC 2020 recognize and realize we have to build economic institutions. Well, I listened to economic institutions today on this call. So those economic institutions don't have to say, oh, we're going to submit to the UNIA. No, you don't have to do that. It's unity without uniformity. So then what I need from you as a part of the UNIA is to say, here is economical structures that we can sit down with you and work out, so that the UNIA ACL RC 2020, along with NBUF and COBRA, can, and the what is it, the Appeal Inc. can have an economic system that works for every last one of us as a part of the UNIA governmental structure. You see, we have to build the science pieces together collectively. If you already have them, we don't have to build them, because you are a part of us and we are a part of you. Right. But if we don't build a governmental structure that brings all that into play and recognizes everybody's role, we've been building organizations. We've built organizations, hear me. And building organizations, you wonder why it's been 100 years and we haven't seen the government, because we didn't focus on building the government. Yes. We have to focus on building the government now. So that in the next 100 years, that celebration of free Africa, that celebration of free African people, that celebration of the West Indies being free, us being free in Arabia, wherever we are located, means that our government and our army and our men and women of big affairs stand true. Well, we have the tools. We have the tools. You're on this call. Brother said, I got people on the ground, and he named several cities across the United States of America. There's got to be a central message that we all push. If we all salute the red, black, and the green, the red, black, and the green, established by Marcus Garvey, red for the blood of our ancestors, Black for the race that we belong, green for the nation that we got to build, trimmed in yellow for the mineral rights. There's no reason that there's poverty on the continent of Africa or poverty in the African community, or why we in the African community commit suicide and genocide against ourselves trying to mirror a European nation.
Right.
We have to take control. I have brothers and sisters on this call that's saying, I raise money to deal with Africa and also deal with my home in Jamaica. I salute you. I'm going to be talking to Pepe to get me some ass just so it can help fund that. But at the same time, RC 2020 is saying when we go into conference and we go into convention next year, we have got to build these pieces, and they're already here. So I don't have to build what's here. We have to unite with what's here. And if we unite with what's here, then we can say what Garvey said. Then we can do what Garvey said to do. Then we can do what Malcolm said to do. Then we can do what King said to do. I'm not worried about how America treats me as an individual. I'm worried about America treating us as a people, because if we have the Army, if we have our Navy, if we have our men and women of big affairs, if we have our governmental structure, they're going to treat me right or face the wrath of my people.
Yes, yes.
I'm not claiming the incarceration called slavery. We were incarcerated. We want to call it slavery, but America wasn't the first to incarcerate us. In this time of AD, from year 1 in the 7th century, the Arabs incarcerated us. Yes. We cannot deny that our slavery didn't start with America. It didn't start here. It only continued here. We have to understand that America brought less slaves here, but what they did is they raised us. They raised us. You've heard the story about the eagle and then the eagle's babies. They raised us from the eagles and taught us a different language, changed our name, changed our view. Now we got to change our view and recapture our names in order for us to understand what we have to do. Raise up people of African descent, raise up organizations, and say as an organization, maintain your independence. Absolutely. I don't want you to give up your independence. I want what you do to be a part of the government of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League Rehabilitating Committee 2020, because we want to take the message of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and unite Africans all over the world. Yes, we know that there are politicians in Africa that are afraid to sacrifice. We know that, because they gotta going to always be the president, always be the head. So we have to educate the African men and women on the ground that's struggling with poor water, they're struggling with bad food, they're struggling with the fact that as hot as Africa is, they don't have electricity, don't have supermarkets, don't have roads. We gotta build with them, because they will change the mind of whoever is in office. We have to build for them the type of political machinery that they can use on the continent of Africa. We Negroes here have the ability to do that, because we understand the system. I'm telling you, in the next 100 years, our goal is to bring into reality the democratic government for African people worldwide. And there's never been a democratic government on this damn planet. So don't get it twisted. We're not trying to mirror America. We're not trying to mirror Britain. We're not trying to mirror France. We're not trying to mirror Italy. We're saying our ancestors had a foundation. We're going to build on that foundation and create the government for us that the world will revel at. Marcus Garvey, when he would go to Canada, he looked around Canada and he'd say, I like what you did. I see what you did. That's nice. He said, but when I build mine, you come and see what I built. And I'm going to say to you, they can look at what we built and then understand what we're going to build. We built the pyramids. We built the nations. We built the political entities. We built them. Now let's build for ourselves. America couldn't be America without us. England couldn't have been England without us. Germany wouldn't have been Germany without us. Portugal wouldn't have been Portugal without us. No, they took the Berlin conference to separate us. My message is clear. Again, it's unity without uniformity, But if we are going to build a governmental structure, I'm telling you, I shouldn't have to be the president general to start from the ground. I'm the president general that has brothers and sisters that are already building, already doing, that needs to say, I can help you build this. I can be a part of what you build and never, ever have to give up who I am. I understand talking about bills in America to get these laws changed. I understand that, but I understand in the city of Philadelphia this week alone, 36 people of African descent were shot by African people on the streets of this city. I want to not change a bill that gives me some economic right, because that economic right will be supplemented by my oppressor, because my oppressor has already looked 100 years down the road. African people have to plan not for this generation, not for my generation, but for my great-great-grandchildren's generation. Because if we ain't planning for them, we will not be successful. I want my granddaughters to understand what this is about. I want my great-grandson to understand what this is about, because when they get connected and they move forward, I want them to build universities. Yes, I was a part of building an institution, but I want to build universities that teach who we are, where we are, what we need to do, and what the hell we need to do to go forward. I know I done said some words, and I apologize to the elders on this line. I apologize to the youth that will ever hear this, but I want you to understand the passion of change, the passion of revolution means it's blood, sweat, and tears. I know Garvey said leadership was blood, sweat, and death.
Pain.
Pain and death.
Yeah.
And understand something. Leadership not gonna be death. Leadership gonna be success. Garvey said death, but in death, Garvey said, look for me in the whirlwind, because as an energy, he does not change. Garvey didn't die, he transitioned. He transitioned. I am not Garvey, that I know. I couldn't have written and done what Garvey did in the 1920s, but I have a responsibility to do what Thomas W. Harvey, Garvey's student, laid on me to do, what Charles L. James, Garvey's student, laid on me to do, in connection with my brothers and my sisters for every genre, my brother Senghor from the UNIA, but every genre, every entity is a part of what we need to do. If I have said nothing of value tonight, nothing, let me say this: unity above all else, unity of purpose, unity of vision, unity of life above all else is the method that we have to use. And we in RC 2020 stand with all of you and welcome you as a part of what we do. And I'm not asking anybody to change anything to be a part of this, because every person on here spoke about being a part of the red, black, and green. And every picture that I saw, there was books of Garvey, the red, black, and green. I'm saying to you, if we salute that flag as a nation, then as a nation, we must work. Asante Sana, for all of you, I appreciate you.
Wow. Bro, boy, well, you know, Achilles, you better be careful reading so much Marcus Garvey, man. Look like you're going to jump out that screen there, brother. But guess what, y'all? You know, this Black August, and on behalf of the UNIA RC 2020, I want to let all of y'all know we support Black August in 1979. But guess what? Gay Edgar Hoover was assigned first to take down Marcus Garvey.
Yep.
He gave Marcus Garvey became one of the first, not the first, but one of the first in the 20th century of political prisoners. He did 2.5 years, but Garvey said, don't y'all worry. He organized while he was in prison.
Absolutely.
But guess what? We support Black August, and we want all political prisoners, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Mumia Abu Jamal, Matula Shakur, and we could go down the line. Let them go, let them out, because we understand that from the plantation of slavery, the fields, you took us to the penal penitentiaries. We understand that history clearly. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, but I want all y'all to know that when we celebrate Garvey, we always celebrate Black August.
Right.
And it's no coincidence they both hit in August. And we're closing up, and I'm gonna ask my dear Sister Tendai to close us out with some spiritual words, but I really want y'all to understand, this is not a rehearsal. This is the movement. And the movement of unification, despite the pandemic, Baba Mosi, here we are face to face, even though we got to use technology. But the fact of the matter is, look out when the pandemic is over, because when Black people start hugging with their Blacktricity, we're gonna rock the planet. Y'all hear me? And believe me, stay safe. Don't fall for the okie doke. Stay safe.
And don't take the
no
vaccine.
Joke.
And don't take the vaccine.
That's right. Oh, that's a movement too. That is a movement. Please educate brothers and sisters. Don't wait on no vaccine. Don't take it when it comes, because the vaccine is going to be more toxic, more deadly, and more poisonous than the pandemic.
Yes.
Trust me. It's already shown us that. So don't do it. And we got to have a Black movement that says, Black people, get your olive leaf extract.
Yeah,
get your elderberry.
Yeah,
get your lemons. Let me finish, brother, because the Spirit is telling me that we have the cure. Cure your immune system, make it strong. And when you get it, if you get it, we know what you need to do. Do not do the vaccine. What you saying, Elder Baba Amseta? What you got to say?
I just want to know the number. Brother Nkrumah, I really enjoyed your speech. What number? Now you're the 10th successor to Marcus Garvey.
I guess I'm number 11.
Oh, the 11th successor.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to get it straight, because Brother Senghor would always tell me I'm the 9th successor, so you're the 11th successor to Marcus Garvey.
Right, but the person number 10 is, I'm the 11th.
Okay, I got you. You don't have to go into that. I got it.
No, but let me say this to you too, Baba Amseta. Garvey taught us in the course of African philosophy. I took it from Charles L. James. Baba Achille took it from Thomas W. Harvey.
Yeah, I knew Thomas Harvey.
When we were well, let me finish. We were cubs in the UNIA. We no longer are cubs. We're lions.
Yeah.
And when we start roaring, look out for the next move.
Yeah.
Because we take no prisoners. We've lost no love for nobody. Whatever anybody out there call themselves, we ain't lost no love for you. But know for one fact, we were born with a mission. Before I knew the UNIA existed, before Baba Achille knew the UNIA existed, the Blacktricity was in us. When we connected with the UNIA, we got more Blacktricity. We've been in the movement longer than we've been in the UNIA. And we are not going to turn, we're not going to turn away from what our Creator guided us to do for nobody.
Right.
Nor are we playing. We are very serious. We got over 300 years of experience in the parent body of the UNIA in the UNIA.
That's right.
We're not working off of personality.
Right.
We're working off of works, words, and deeds. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, check the record out for yourself. We're not playing. And my children and my grandchildren overstand. I had to say that because the public is listening, and I want the public to understand we coming to you. Either you're going to be with us. If you're against us, stay out of our way. I love everybody. Mama Tendai.
Well, we're going to love you anyway.
And Black Love, Mama Tendai. And Black Love Tendai, Mama Tendai.
Put us on the spiritual. We're going to love you anyway. And I'm saying.
But Mama Tendai, before I go to you though, anybody got anything burning in their heart that you can say in 30 seconds? Burning in your heart. Come on. Quickly. Nobody?
Yes. Bring the United African States into political existence now.
Right.
Okay, it's already spiritually in us. What we got to do now is figure out how to bring it out of us and make it a reality. Because I'm with you. You know that, Baba Amseta. And I hear you loud and clear, brother. What I'm saying to you all is we're following our ancestors. And our ancestors were created by the Most High. And that's what we're carrying. Doesn't mean we know everything. Like what Baba Achille said was absolutely clear. Everybody that say that they're about a movement and change, come to the table with something. And we got a plan that we will hook with a plan and make it happen. Mama Tendai. Thank you, Baba Achille, for that message. Thank you, Mama Mary. Thank you, Baba Kalichi. Thank you, Baba Hakima. Thank you, Baba Kofi. Thank you, Baba Amseta. Thank you, Sister Yao. Thank you, Brother Cam. Thank you, Baba Mosi. Thank you, Brother Zama in the background. Thank you, Brother Haru Harold in the background. Thank you, Brother Sam in the background. And if I missed anybody, don't hold it against me, you know, because I didn't mean that. I'm trying to remember everybody, but I love y'all all. I appreciate y'all. And I hope I did a good job moderating. Most of the time, I'm not a moderator.
Asante Sana, brother, Senghor, for moderating and hosting.
Well, I hope I didn't offend anyone, but don't, like I said, don't take that the wrong way. Just call me up and lay me out and let it go, and let's make love. Mama Tendai.
That's what I was talking about when I said Garvey reached across the aisle. And we don't even consider Pan-Africanists. But he reached out to them because he knew they were African.
That's right.
Yeah. They did not know themselves.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, you know, even with the DASI as an organization, we do series of workshops and things. Our thing is also bringing the youth and folk together to understand. Our workshops that we've done is trying to heal our people so that they can move forward, for them to understand their trauma as well. So I want to close by saying we made it to this, Marcus Garvey, and to all of our ancestors. We may not know your names or your faces, but your spirit lives in us and among us. I ended up following traditional African religion because as a Pan-Africanist, I was looking for something more than the economic development I was involved in with the Pan-African education, with the schools that I've started, and the support that I have given to higher education in all these years, with the financial information that I found, with the technology that I was involved in terms of learning the computer industry, et cetera, et cetera. I was looking for what was a missing piece and why is it that they took away from us what was ours previously. And I was led and said, that's one of the components that helps us to give us the strength that we need to stand upon, to help us when we feel as though we have no energy and nowhere to go. And when we're crying out, trying to find out where is help. And our help is within ourselves because we are our ancestors. So your lives were cut short, your dreams vanished, your loved ones taken, never to return. We are the descendants of those mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, sons, and daughters who perished in, and those who survived the Ma'afa. Today, we honor you. We remember you, Marcus Garvey. You live in us. We are you. Your DNA is in our blood and in our veins, passed on from generations to generations. We cannot forget you. We must remember you. We will honor you by remembering you. We will honor you by healing your pain, which is our pain. We will honor you by restoring your name, your dignity, your humanity, thereby restoring ourselves. We will remember you by being the best that we can be as a people of African descent. We remember you by loving who we are and loving each other. We will remember you by reclaiming who we are as the mothers and fathers of all humanity. And we will remember you for the richness and the greatness that you have given to the world, to all humanity. Marcus Garvey, we will remember you. We will always remember you.
Ashe, ashe.
Ashe.
So brothers and sisters, we are closing, but you know, not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Y'all raise up the red, black, and the green, and we will be redeemed. Open up your eyes and see we're on our way to being free. Can everybody hold up their right fist? And we're going to recite the slogan. Everybody knows it, right?
Yes.
One God.
One God.
One God.
One aim.
One aim.
One aim.
One destiny.
One destiny.
And one destiny.
Black
And
power.
I'm not going to say goodbye. I'll see y'all later. Black power. I'll see
Black
all
power.
of y'all later.
Up to
In
your
the
mighty race,
whirlwind.
you can
Black
accomplish
people.
what you will.
In
That's
the
right.
whirlwind.
Up to your mighty race.
Whirlwind.
Asante
Yeah,
Sana.
yeah. Thank you.